In a city setting, one person clarifies they are not friends while another insists they are close. Walking through a crowd, Kim Jun-soo suggests she has the wrong person, but Yang So-yen confirms his name and school. Their feet move rhythmically as a sudden, quick tap sounds from her shoes while she begs to go to the arcade. Kim Jun-soo turns around abruptly and demands to know why she has been following him. He bluntly tells her to find someone else to spend time with if she is bored. He explains he is busy while she nervously fidgets with her fingers. Yang So-yeon looks dejected, her face downcast as she continues to fiddle with her hands. She excitedly suggests a cafe instead, prompting a tired sigh from him at her persistence. He flatly refuses her again before turning his gaze away. As he walks off into the crowd, Yang So-yeon watches his back from a distance.
She giggles quietly to herself while looking down at her hands with a strange, hidden amusement.
A predatory and intense smirk spreads across her face as she gazes forward. The scene shifts back to 1 year ago at Namyeon High School. A teacher praises a younger Kim Jun-soo for achieving another perfect score and encourages his future success. While Kim Jun-soo accepts the praise, Yang So-yeon watches from the foreground, furiously crushing her papers. She glares through a window, intensely questioning his study habits and academic secrets. Kim Jun-soo is identified as the top science student nationwide, famous for his consistent perfect scores. Yang So-yeon is introduced as the top student in the liberal arts crack. A grade report reveals that despite her rank, she has never achieved a perfect mock exam score. She laments her tendency to miss familiar questions due to extreme exam nerves. The two academic rivals stand on opposite sides of a wall, unaware of each other. Driven by envy, she wonders what kind of elite academy or secret he is using. Yang So-yeon overhears faculty members discussing the latest perfect score from the science track. She listens as a teacher praises the science track while dismissing the feelings of liberal arts students. With a forced and eerie smile, she silently challenges the teacher's dismissive remarks. She seethes with resentment, feeling that only Kim Jun-soo stands in the way of her total dominance. She watches him from afar, her eyes fixed on her primary academic target. A hand presses firmly against a glass pane as she vows never to be compared again. Gripping her crumpled test results, she swears to beat him in the next exam at any cost. In the present, she follows him while secretly plotting to sabotage his study time with cafe visits. She believes her plan to interfere with his academic progress is proceeding perfectly. A wave of shock hits her as they settle into a booth at a study cafe. She screams internally at the irony of being trapped in a place meant for studying. She fumes over the wasted effort of staying up for days just to clear the schedule. She views him as a persistent monster as he immediately opens a textbook to work. Panic sets in as she realizes he is solving problems at a rapid pace despite her presence. To maintain her cover, she reluctantly pulls out a mathematics textbook of her own. She notes that the book she brought is specifically for the liberal arts math track. A new strategy forms in her mind as she remembers his expertise is in science. She observes him intently, waiting for the right moment to execute her next move. Sitting across from him, she adopts a helpless persona to grab his attention. She asks him to teach her calculus, hoping her constant questions will successfully annoy him. To her surprise, he pauses his own work and agrees to help her. Her eyes widened in genuine shock at his unexpected and calm willingness to tutor her. He admits he misjudged her intentions, now believing she actually has a passion for learning. He explains that teaching others helps him study better, leaving her completely baffled by his reaction. He begins the lesson by asking if she understands the fundamental concepts of sequence limits. He opens the textbook and suggests they begin by solving an example problem together. As he points to the page, she is suddenly distracted by the sight of his hand. Her face flushes with a deep blush as she becomes unexpectedly captivated by his hands. He finishes explaining the math problem while she watches him, feeling completely lost and flustered. He asks for the answer, but she realizes she hasn't heard a single word of his explanation. A heavy silence falls as they stare at each other intensely across the table. Sweating profusely, she blinks and nervously offers a random guess of 10 for the answer. He points out the question is multiple choice, leaving her utterly bewildered by her own mistake. He asks how she reached that conclusion after his clear explanation, leaving her feeling small and embarrassed. He suggests switching to easier material, but she admits she has no idea how far she has progressed. Seeing her struggle, he patiently decides they will start over from the very beginning. Her heart races uncontrollably as the reality of being taught by him sets in. He questions her sudden shift to formal speech while her face turns a bright, steaming red. He considers if her recent performance was just a fluke or a simple marking mistake. A teacher dismisses her after a disastrous mock exam performance, leaving her spirit utterly crushed. She screams in frustration, realizing her plan to sabotage him has only resulted in her own downfall. Her friends panic and try to pull her back to reality as she loses herself in despair. She stares blankly with hollow eyes, wondering how everything went so wrong.
The classroom door slides open as the top student unexpectedly makes an appearance. He announces he has finally found her, much to her absolute and utter shock.
Rumors swirl among the students as they wonder why the school's top geniuses arrived.
Her friends are stunned and question what kind of relationship they could possibly have.
He stands calmly in the doorway, exuding a cool and composed academic confidence. The group is struck by lightning-fast shock as they process his sudden presence. Her friends demand to know exactly how much progress she has made with him.
She reflects on their recent encounters, realizing how deeply intertwined their paths have become.
Looking at her results, she is horrified that the same academic disaster has happened again.
She loudly vows never to see him again while her confused friends look on.
The very next day, he arrives to invite her to the study cafe. He persists the following day, appearing at the window to repeat his study invitation. He follows her relentlessly through the halls while she continues to flatly refuse him. No matter how much she tries to escape, his academic pursuit remains unwavering. She feels her sanity slipping as his voice echoes with the same constant request. The rivalry between the science and liberal arts tracks reaches a quiet, tense peak. After a week of hiding, she crouches in a corner, exhausted and utterly defeated. Her friends suggest he is obsessed with her, but she remains skeptical and annoyed. They praise his looks and intelligence, wondering why a popular guy would pursue her. She listens to their theories while blushing, her confusion only growing by the second. He suddenly appears on the stairs above them, causing her to spit out her drink. He immediately brings up a calculus topic, catching her completely off guard once again.
He gazes down at her with a calm, expectant look that demands her attention.
A sudden realization hits her like a bolt of lightning, leaving her speechless. She bolts away in a blur of speed as her friends call out in confusion. She sprints through the hallway, desperately trying to put distance between them. She fumes about her academic ruin while her face burns a bright red. The two rivals find themselves standing together in the quiet school office. A teacher explains that the newspaper club wants a feature on their academic collaboration. The teacher asks if they are strangers and encourages them to introduce themselves. He offers a simple, calm greeting that contrasts with her frantic internal state. She laments her failed escape while the teacher notices the strange tension. The teacher mentions the club president's persistence as she listens with growing dread. It is revealed that the newspaper club president is actually her own best friend. Yang So-yeon seethes with resentment while Kim Jin-soo stands calmly. He clarifies that participation is optional and not at all mandatory. He suggests they focus on their individual studies as graduating seniors. He is known for avoiding all media and outside interview requests. She finds his sudden willingness to participate to be quite strange. They stand awkwardly apart in the quiet school hallway during transition. She grips her trousers in frustration, lamenting her terrible luck today. A teacher encourages him to help her for her own benefit. Her pride explodes at the suggestion of being his lowly sidekick. She forcedly agrees to the collaboration with a very fake smile. He notes her sudden change of heart regarding the interview project. He admits that he agreed because the situation seemed genuinely fun. She is frozen in total shock by his unexpected and casual response. The photographer instructs them to move closer together for the shot. She trembles uncontrollably as they sit together at the school desks.
She steals a nervous glance at the boy sitting beside her.
The club members encourage both students to smile for the camera.
He offers a soft, practiced smile while she looks on nervously. Students gossip excitedly as the top academic rivals pose together closely. Her friends celebrate their success in convincing him to participate today. She feels completely overwhelmed and flustered by the intense camera attention. The club president asks them to adopt a more friendly pose. A sudden, firm grip on her hand sends her into panic. He confidently claims he can even study using only his left hand. The club president requests an even more intimate pose for them. She screams in protest while he remains completely unmoved and calm. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick sleight of hands. Their fingers interlace tightly, causing her to freeze in utter bewilderment. She turns a bright, steaming red while he asks if this works.
The photographers are stunned by the bold and romantic-looking gesture. Rumors spread among the crowd watching from the hallway through windows.
Students whisper about the shock of seeing the top students holding hands. A massive crowd of curious onlookers gathers outside the locked classroom. A light brown-haired girl watches the scene with a suspicious expression. The student body speculates that the top two students are dating. The girl with the ponytail recalls how he coldly rejected her. She wonders why he would accept her when he ignored everyone else. She shares the blunt reason he gave for ending their previous connection. A simple, single word on his phone screen reveals his culprit. The girl stands in silence, processing the frustrating and jealous situation. She feels the weight of the jealous gazes from the hallway. The girl with the ponytail turns and walks away from the crowd. She leaves without a word, her face set in a neutral expression. The camera display shows the successful capture of their intimate pose. The club president celebrates the great photos while she slumps over. She demands to know if the ordeal is finally over now. The president mentions that there is one more part to go. The next theme focuses on the two rivals sharing study secrets. Her friends wave goodbye while teasing her about their romantic progress. She screams internally, horrified that her avoidance plan has completely failed. Kim Jin-soo calls out to her, causing a sharp gasp to sound as she jumps in surprise. Yang Soyan turns around in shock, realizing her peaceful life is effectively over as she nervously responds.
He stares at her with a blank expression and flatly states that she is bad at studying.
She stands frozen with a confused expression as a question mark floats above her head.
He leans back in his chair and questions how someone who can't solve basic calculus is a top student.
He wonders if the teacher misjudged her, leaving her struck by a lightning-fast bolt of shock.
She fuming with a red face, arguing that she only failed previously to test his academic skills.
She nervously claims there has been a misunderstanding while he watches her with a skeptical look.
She adopts a confident pose and boasts about her near-perfect mock exam scores to prove her status.
He narrows his eyes and glances at her sideways with an unconvinced and judging expression.
He looks down at his phone and tells her he doesn't believe her boastful claims at all.
She trembles with a bright red face, feeling utterly insulted by his blatant disregard for her talent.
She seethes with internal rage, realizing that he is looking down on her skills and pride.
She suggests they share their study methods for the project to prove her superiority and crush his pride.
He continues to look at his phone while noting that she will realize the truth once they start. He offers a slight, confident smile and tells her to go ahead with her plan.
He agrees to her idea but adds that he has one specific condition for their collaboration.
They stand before a bright arcade as he explains they must strictly follow each other's study methods. She excitedly asks if he is nervous about the challenge while they walk together through the city.
He stops and points toward the study cafe, but she stops him with a firm tug.
She explains that visiting the arcade is her essential ritual before she can begin any serious studying.
He asks if such a thing actually counts as a study method while she drags him inside.
She plots her revenge, wondering why high achievers like him are always so competitive and intense.
She considers that a perfectionist like Junsu would be especially affected by losing a game to her.
She imagines him kneeling in total despair after experiencing his first ever defeat at the game center.
She enthusiastically invites him to play a realistic shooting game, hoping to show off her skills.
A metallic click sounds as she confidently prepares to crush him in the arcade battle.
The arcade screen displays a total defeat for the second player as the match ends.
He stands in stunned silence while a cold chill seems to pass through his defeated figure.
She watches him with a wide-eyed, terrified expression, realizing her plan has backfired once again. She demands to know if he has ever even stepped foot inside an arcade before today. She fumes about her childhood experience with shooting sports, wondering how she could have possibly lost.
He explains he simply timed his button presses with the zombies, leaving her calling him annoying.
She grabs his arm with a firm grip and drags him toward another game for a rematch. They stop to watch a girl with a ponytail skillfully playing an intense rhythm dance game. Seeing the expert footwork, she decides that particular game is way too difficult for them today.
She spots a different machine and excitedly points it out as their next competitive challenge.
She recalls her previous frustration as she prepares to face him in a racing game.
They sit side by side at the steering wheels, both looking intensely focused on the virtual race.
He notes that they have played enough and suggests it is finally time to go study.
She looks into her wallet and insists on playing just one more round to win.
She grips his arm tightly, refusing to leave until she gets a chance for revenge.
He suggests that if she wants to play more, they should come back after their work. She jumps up in excitement, thrilled at the prospect of returning to the arcade later. She frantically asks which day next week would be best for their next arcade visit. He stares at her in a long, contemplative silence while she waits for his answer.
He suddenly grabs her arm with a firm grip, catching her completely by surprise. He looks down at her and asks if she finally feels like meeting with him now.
He mutters that she should have admitted her game addiction earlier while she looks up confused. A loud bang sounds as she protests his accusation while he leads her to the library. Yang So-yeon turns a bright red while panting that she isn't finished talking. Kim Jun-soo bluntly states he is leaving her behind if she remains standing there.
She chases after him, shouting for him to wait as they walk away together.
A tired sigh sounds as she collapses face down on her notebook in exhaustion.
She laments losing sleep while fuming over her arcade defeat to her rival.
Her notebook contains a checklist with a confusing note about studying at an arcade.
She imagines her friends teasing her about planning secret arcade dates of them.
A soft thud sounds as she realizes her friends would only offer unhelpful advice.
A simple greeting catches her attention while she rests her head on her desk.
She looks up with a confused expression at the girl standing before her desk.
The light brown-haired girl with the ponytail stares down at her with a neutral gaze. A close-up reveals the girl's intense and unreadable expression as she stands in silence.
She points to herself in surprise, asking if the stranger is addressing her.
She wonders who the stranger is while looking up with a trembling, nervous expression. The girl with the ponytail acknowledges her identity with a simple and flat response.
A quick swish sounds as the girl abruptly turns around and walks away.
Multiple question marks float above her head as students gossip about the strange encounter.
She panics, wondering if she has just been targeted by a dangerous delinquent student.
The girl with the ponytail mutters a frustrated curse to herself after leaving the room.
She screams in shock as she realizes her academic situation is truly dire.
Choi Ji-woo is introduced as she sits confidently in her school uniform with a bag.
A test paper reveals her failing score and bizarre, nonsensical English answers.
The teacher scolds Choi Ji-woo for her terrible performance and suggests she improve soon.
She apologizes while internally lamenting her inability to even read the test questions.
The teacher threatens to call her parents if her next score remains below 50.
A heavy thud sounds as she drops to her knees, begging her teacher for mercy. The teacher suggests she seek academic help from the top student, Yang So-yeon.
A dramatic chord sounds as Ji-woo celebrates her savior, while So-yeon looks confused.
Ji-woo seethes at the idea of learning from someone preoccupied with romantic club photos.
She observes So-yeon from a distance, wondering what kind of person the girl truly is.
A firm snap sounds as she resolves to use a study service instead of them.
So-yeon tries to stay calm, wondering what she did to provoke a delinquent's attention.
She recalls yesterday's visit to the arcade after finishing the club's report photos.
She remembers her frustration after losing the shooting arcade game to Kim Jin-soo.
She recalls watching an expert rhythm game player perform with incredibly fast footwork. A sudden realization strikes her as she observes the girl standing in her classroom.
She looks at her own hand in shock, finally recognizing the girl's identity.
A loud slap sounds as she slams her hand down, recognizing the arcade expert.
She shouts for the girl's attention as Ji-woo stands near the classroom doorway.
She asks if the girl was at the arcade yesterday, sparking a sudden confrontation. The girl with the ponytail freezes as she recognizes the name of the rhythm game.
She leans in close and intensely asks if the other girl saw her yesterday.
So-young trembles while nervously asking for clarification about the intense question. Choi Ji-woo repeats her question with an even more intense and unyielding gaze. They sit together on a bench while discussing the need for absolute secrecy.
Ji-woo explains her history of getting caught during exam periods and the resulting parental calls.
Ji-woo complains about her teacher's constant nagging regarding her grades and behavior.
So-yeon observes that despite her delinquent appearance, Ji-woo seems like a regular arcade enthusiast.
A sudden idea flashes in So-yeon's mind as she recalls her arcade study checklist. She asks if Ji-woo is good at other games too, catching her new acquaintance off guard. She asks about other games and mentions her rhythm geeks Gus. Ji-woo sips her soda and answers with a vague so-so.
So-yeon realizes she has found the perfect mentor for her arcade study plan.
She strikes a pose and asks Ji-woo to teach her how to play.
She offers to keep Ji-woo's secret in exchange for game lessons.
Ji-woo is caught off guard and wonders why she should agree to this.
Ji-woo interprets the offer as a threat to report her to the teacher.
She eyes So-yeon suspiciously, wondering if she's being blackmailed.
Ji-woo sighs and asks for a guarantee that her parents won't find out. So-yeon promises her lips are sealed and celebrates her success.
Ji-woo offers to buy her a drink as a reward for her discretion.
She sighs and decides to accept the situation for now.
She turns back towards So-yeon with a sudden realization. She notes So-yeon's top academic rank and mentions her own needs.
She bluntly asks for English lessons in return for the arcade training.
A quiet evening settling over the school grounds signals a transition.
So-yeon informs Jin-soo that she cannot study with him today.
She suggests they work on the project separately from home.
Jun-soo reminds her that the report is supposed to be a team effort.
A quick rhythmic thumping sounds as she explains she has a student to tutor.
He taunts her for avoiding his method while she argues back angrily.
A sudden sharp swish sounds as Ji-woo pulls So-yeon into a side hark.
Ji-woo tells him that she is the one who needs So-yeon today.
Jin-soo stares at the newcomer with a blank, uncomprehending expression.
He continues to watch them in silence with a questioning look. They face off in the hallway during a tense standoff.
Ji-woo notes his fame, but admits she only knows of him vaguely.
She calls him rude while So-yeon trembles a Gamil.
A voice calls for Jun-soo from the end of the long boulevard. A classmate warns him they'll miss the bus while Ji-woo watches him. He gives her one last cold stare before turning away.
A quick sharp swish sounds as he abruptly leaves the two girls behind.
He walks away down the hallway without saying another word.
He casts a final, lingering glance back toward the pair. Ji-woo asks if that rude boy is So-yeon's boyfriend. So-yeon screams in denial with a bright red, embarrassed face.
A slow, heavy creak sounds as she nervously suggests they begin their work.
She wonders if she has an extra English book for their lesson. Ji-woo follows behind with a neutral, slightly bored expression.
The school building stands under a pink-hued sky as evening arrives.
They sit in class as So-yeon suggests, starting with basic words.
She tells herself that tutoring is her specialty as she checks her level.
Ji-woo stares at the word alligator while struggling to pronounce it.
So-yeon watches in horror as Ji-woo fails to read the basic word. Ji-woo points to the word cottage and notes its difficulty. She provides a nonsensical answer while So-yeon reacts with pure terror.
So-yeon asks for her rank while Ji-woo admits to being a level 7.
A sudden loud bang sounds as a bolt of shock hits the cop's duper.
She tells herself to stay calm and remember her tutoring experience.
She steals a worried glance at her new academically challenged pupil.
A student's hand rapidly fills out a long vocabulary list.
Yang So-yeon looks surprised and confused while holding her pen.
She marvels at how quickly her student memorized the words. She asks her student how she managed to learn so fast.
Choi Ji-woo explains her method of using simple word associations.
She demonstrates her logic as So-yeon asks for more examples. A warning appears as she explains a word using its sound.
She mentions her teacher's habit while they sit in class.
So-yeon is impressed by the clever and unconventional learning style.
She admits her traditional style and promises to try this.
Jiwoo teases her for trying to steal a level 7's method.
The school building glows under a deep purple evening sky. A rhythmic scuffing sounds as they walk together after studying.
Jiwoo confidently discusses her improved chances for the final exam.
So-yeon thinks about Jiwoo's potential despite her low rank.
She realizes there is more to the girl than just playing.
She prepares to ask a personal question with a serious face.
They stop in the quiet evening light to face each other.
She wonders if the girl's appearance causes people to misjudge her.
Jiwoo explains her athletic past and the resulting misunderstandings.
So-yeon asks for clarification about the girl's unusual hair color.
Jiwoo reveals that her mother is from the United States.
So-yeon shouts in disbelief while Jiwoo remains perfectly calm.
She expresses shock that a biracial student could struggle in English. Jiwoo explains that her mother speaks Korean almost exclusively.
She adds that she has lived in Korea her entire life.
So-yeon feels embarrassed and asks about her friend's commute. Jiwoo points toward a bus while asking for So-yeon's Mabrad.
She identifies the correct bus as it arrives at the sup.
She explains she will run home instead of riding with her.
A quick patter sounds as Jiwoo runs beside the bus.
She waves a happy goodbye as the bus pulls away.
A chime sounds as the bus announcement states the next stop.
So-yeon smiles to herself, reflecting on her new friend's kindness.
She wonders if the girl is simply a carefree arcade lover.
A sudden sharp realization hits as she thinks of the arcade. She panics after checking her phone and realizing a mistake.
She laments forgetting her contact information as the bus moves.
She decides to wait until tomorrow before hearing a loud shout.
She looks back in shock, seeing Jiwoo running at high speed.
A tired huff sounds as the girl catches her breath.
Jiwoo expresses deep gratitude for the first compliment she's received.
She promises to return the favor with arcade lessons soon.
So-yeon laughs and happily accepts the offer of canning.
The bus continues on as the next stop is announced.
Jiwoo smiles warmly, feeling satisfied with her new friendship.
A firm, sudden grip catches an arm during an argument.
So-yeon protests the confrontation while her arm is held tight.
A low murmur sounds as students gossip about the scene.
She looks up in a daze, overwhelmed by the sudden tension.
Kim Jin-soo firmly holds So-yeon's arm as Jiwoo stands behind her, creating an awkward hallway confrontation.
A low murmur sounds as students whisper about Kim Jin-soo being involved in such a public dispute.
A sudden sharp grip tightens on her wrist as Jun-soo reminds her that he yielded yesterday. Jiwoo seizes So-yeon in a side hug while Jun-soo refuses to let go, demanding an explanation for her behavior.
Jiwoo explains that she has lessons to give So-yeon, leaving the girl caught between her two demanding classmates.
Kim Jin-soo stares intensely while stating that there are things Jiwoo simply cannot teach.
He closes his eyes with a resigned sigh, admitting that he has no choice in the matter.
A sudden sharp ring sounds as Jun-soo answers a phone call while the others watch him in confusion. So-yeon screams in frustration and demands her phone back as Jun-soo holds it high out of her reach. Jiwoo watches the scene with a suspicious expression, noting that Jun-soo's interest in the school report seems unusual.
Jun-soo maintains a calm expression despite the chaos, questioning if his interest lies with So-yeon herself rather than the project.
A heavy rhythmic thud sounds as a new student approaches the group in the school corridor.
A black-haired boy carrying an art tube calls out to Kim Jin-soo, interrupting the tense standoff between the students.
The newcomer stares blankly at the scene with his hands in his pockets, appearing unimpressed by the drama.
He tells Jun-soo to go ahead while Jiwoo looks on, wondering if she recognizes the quiet art student.
The black-haired boy asks about the stranger's identity, prompting a confused look from the students around him.
Jiwoo observes the large tube on his shoulder and recalls seeing art students carrying similar equipment. She remembers seeing the boy drawing in class and realizes that he is actually her own desk partner.
She recalls that Jun-soo occasionally visited their classroom, likely to see this particular student.
The boy with the art tube continues to watch them silently, his presence adding another layer of mystery.
Jiwoo decides to introduce her classmate to So-yeon, though she admits they are not particularly close friends.
Yang So-yeon freezes with a look of pure terror as she stares at the black-haired newcomer. A sudden, firm grip sounds as her hand clutches her skirt in a moment of intense anxiety. Jiwoo asks if she's feeling all right as So-yeon turns pale and begins to tremble uncontrollably.
The boy with the art tube blinks in realization as he finally recognizes the girl standing before him.
The four students stand in a strained circle in the middle of the quiet school hallway. So-yeon looks away with a troubled expression, clearly overwhelmed by the sudden reunion.
A sudden, quiet huff sounds as she forces out a nervous greeting before turning her back on the group. An oppressive silence falls over the corridor as the four students avoid looking at one another. They remain in their positions, a wide gap separating the two pairs of students in the hallway. A green vending machine stands filled with colorful cans of soda and juice near the classroom. Jiwoo sips a red soda and watches the black-haired boy with a contemplative, silent expression. A sudden, sharp grip sounds as Jiwoo drags the boy away, leaving the others behind in the hallway.
The black-haired boy holds a blue soda and wonders how he should begin a conversation with her.
A sudden loud spit sounds as he chokes on his drink in response to Jiwoo's blunt question.
He wipes his mouth and asks for clarification regarding the strange atmosphere between them earlier. He looks away while mentioning the term ex-girlfriend, hinting at a past relationship with the top student. They lean against the school wall as he discusses his history with So-yeon under the fading evening light. So-yeon recalls a past moment sitting across from Jun-soo in a quiet room. They sat together at a cafe working on their studies while sharing a peaceful afternoon.
Jin-soo asks if she was supposed to go with the blonde girl, noticing a change in her plans.
So-yeon laughs nervously and explains that she had always intended to finish their joint report.
Jun-soo watches her with a neutral gaze while she struggles to find the right words. He asks if she is already acquainted with Lee Soo-hyun, the boy with the art tube.
So-yeon looks down at her notebook and quietly confirms that she does indeed know him.
Jun-soo notes the stiffness in their interaction and questions why an old acquaintance would act so cold.
She stares at the table in silence, unable to provide an easy answer to his probing question.
Jun-soo offers to drop the subject if the explanation involves something too personal for her to share. So-yeon begins to explain that Soo-yeon is much more than just a regular classmate to her.
The scene shifts between the boy and the girl, highlighting the unspoken tension remaining between them.
Narration explains that the two children's parents were professors at the same university.
The mothers discuss their children's appearances and talents while they stand together.
The girl's mother playfully suggests the children marry one another in the future.
The mothers laugh while the young girl wonders if she is truly destined for him.
A quick tap sounds as Soo-hyun's hand reaches out to get the girl's attention. The black-haired boy smiles and kindly invites the girl to draw with him.
The young girl is shocked by the boy's friendliness on their very first meeting.
She begins to tremble and cry as the boy watches her in silent confusion.
A loud wail sounds as she cries during their first encounter in the neighborhood.
The two have not spoken a single word since that childhood marriage incident.
Older So-yeon reflects on meeting Soo-hyun again at their shared high school.
Jun-soo suggests the reason is simple, but So-yeon insists it is a significant problem.
She expresses her wish that the childhood marriage talk was just a joke.
She panics while recalling her mother's questions about her relationship with Soo-hyun. She explains that she has intentionally avoided any romance to focus on her studies. Her primary life goal has always been to succeed academically like her esteemed parents. She holds her pencil firmly while stating there is simply no time for kidding. A close-up of her face reveals her realizing a flaw in her own logic. Kim Jin-soo watches her with a calm and observant expression during their conversation.
He focuses on her notes while she remains lost in her internal thoughts.
She points to herself with a confused expression as she processes his probing words.
He questions if her academic focus is the real reason she avoids male friends. He looks at her seriously while awaiting an answer to the obvious contradiction.
He advises her to resolve the misunderstanding with her childhood friend as soon as possible.
She stares at her book, suddenly realizing something important about her own behavior.
A quick tap sounds as she processes a shocking realization about her interactions.
She looks at Jun-soo with wide eyes as a new, troubling thought takes hold. He watches her intently, his gaze fixed on her surprised expression across the table.
The two students face each other as the tension in the room grows.
A sudden, deep flush sounds as a blush spreads across her face in embarrassment.
She panics and announces she is leaving after finishing their joint report assignment. She denies any special friendship while quickly stuffing her books into her back. A quick zip sounds as she declares Jun-soo to be her academic rival.
She rushes away, hoping to avoid any further interaction with him after today.
Jun-soo watches her leave, his expression remaining completely unreadable as she departs. He calls out her name as she moves toward the door of the cafe.
She looks back in surprise, her face still flushed from their previous conversation.
He stands there silently, observing her reaction with a steady and calm gaze.
She blinks in confusion at his silence, wondering what he wants to say.
He mentions the arcade, signaling a disaster that she brought upon herself earlier. She looks down at her phone with a worried and frantic expression.
A hand holds a phone displaying a notification about an incoming call. He holds up his phone to show her name on the calling screen. He gives her a subtle smile as he maintains his hold on the device. She huffs in frustration while asking how he managed to obtain her phone number. He explains that their teacher provided the contact information for their school project. She looks down in shame, realizing she forgot to save his number correctly.
Jiwoo asks Soo-hyun why he hasn't spoken to his childhood friend for years.
Soo-hyun looks down while admitting his fear that his feelings would be burdensome.
Jiwoo holds her head in frustration, realizing how complicated the situation has become.
Jiwoo yells at Soo-hyun for finding it so difficult to ask for a simple friendship while he covers his face and admits how hard it is.
Soo-hyun worries that So-yeon might find the gesture hateful, causing Jiwoo to watch him with an expression of pure, shocked frustration. Narration explains that Jiwoo has encountered a massive obstacle while standing with Soo-hyun in the quiet school corridor. Sitting on a bench, Jiwoo bluntly remarks that Soo-hyun has an unexpected personality for someone so big and potato-like, much to his confusion.
Soo-hyun explains he grew large by eating everything his parents offered, leading Jiwoo to conclude his reasoning is exactly like him. Jiwoo sighs and decides she cannot leave the situation between the two childhood friends unresolved as it is now.
She suggests that Soo-hyun practice making friends on her first, prompting him to ask what kind of practice she means.
Ji-woo clarifies it is practice for asking someone to be his friend, which leaves him looking completely stunned and overwhelmed. Soo-hyun questions if it would be a burden to suddenly ask someone to become his friend. Ji-woo dismisses his concerns as extroverted thinking while insisting that having more friends is always better, leaving him quietly processing her words. Soo-hyun agrees to attempt the practice, looking nervous as he prepares to speak with his classmate. A sudden deep breath sounds as Soo-hyun exhales to settle his nerves. Soo-hyun stutters out a painful and awkward request for friendship, making Ji-woo wonder what he is even trying to say.
Ji-woo is horrified by his performance, wondering what kind of life he led and doubting he can ever talk to So-hyun.
She recalls that although So-hyun is fundamentally shy, she was always capable of stepping forward when a situation truly required it.
Soo-hyun remains silent as he awaits her reaction, while Ji-woo looks away in deep and contemplative thought.
Ji-woo sits with him on the bench and asks if he truly wants to become friends with So-hyun.
Soo-hyun confirms his feelings with a determined look, insisting that his desire for her friendship is not a lie.
He starts to explain their parents' influence, but Ji-woo tells him he must speak up if he wants things to change.
Ji-woo warns him that his true feelings will never be conveyed to the girl if he keeps them hidden forever. Narration notes the importance of honesty as Ji-woo challenges Soo-hyun to make his request right now. A sudden, quick rustle sounds as Ji-woo stands over the classmate.
Soo-hyun looks up at her with a nervous and hesitant expression.
He gazes up at her and repeats his request for her to become his friend with a clearer voice.
Ji-woo watches him silently for a long moment, maintaining a calm and unreadable expression during the practice session.
She breaks into a bright smile and happily accepts his request as flowers bloom in the background of her joy. A sudden, quick rustle sounds as Ji-woo pulls out her phone, leaving Soo-hyun wondering if the interaction was actually practiced. Ji-woo points out that he was the one who asked to be friends, leaving him completely confused.
A hand holds a smartphone showing the blank dialer for a contact.
A sudden, quick tap sounds as Soo-hyun enters his number while Ji-woo advises him to increase his social skills. So-hyun sits in the back of a car and stares out the window, reflecting on the unusual events of her day. Her phone displays the time 6:15 and a single missed call. She is shocked to see a man's number on her phone, noting her lack of Soo-hyun's contact information. Narration questions her reason for avoiding male friends as the screen reveals the contact details for Kim Jun-soo. So-hyun stares at the screen with a deep blush and wad-eyes. A sudden, quick tap sounds as her thumb hovers over safe. A sudden, sharp hiss sounds as a green bus pulls away. A sudden, low hum sounds as Jun-soo stands on the bus. Announcements inform the passengers that the next stop is the Namyeon Community Center as Jun-soo looks out the window. He checks his phone and sees So-hyun's name at the top of his chat list with a no contact status. He reflects on how she was actually the first one to reach out to him earlier that day. A sudden, quick tap sounds as he selects her profile icon. Her profile picture shows her smiling brightly with a group of friends. A sudden, quiet chuckle sounds as Jun-soo observes that she really does not seem to have any male friends. A sudden, quick tap sounds as he selects the far icon. Jun-soo maintains a subtle, contented smile while looking at his son. Announcements state the next stop is across Namyeon Park as the rhythmic hum of the bus continues. A sudden, low roar sounds as a bus passes the students walking along the sidewalk. Soo-hyun walks with Ji-woo and asks how she became friends with someone like Kim Jin-soo. He notes Jun-soo is the top student and very popular, questioning their lack of commonality despite his school center status. Soo-hyun admits the truth while walking with Ji-woo in the quiet neighborhood. He asks Ji-woo how she and Jun-soo became friends, noting they became close without him realizing. Ji-woo asks when this happened, and Soo-hyun estimates it was around the end of their second year. Soo-hyun cries about So-hyun's discomfort, while Ji-woo reminds him they are friends now as she teases him. Ji-woo offers to help him talk to the girl, leading Soo-hyun to give a weak and hesitant agreement. Ji-woo gazes off thoughtfully, reflecting on the timeline starting from the end of last year. A sudden, quiet sob sounds as Ji-woo recalls a somber moment in the school locker room. The scene returns to the present as the two students stand facing each other on the sidewalk. Soo-hyun looks confused and asks for clarification regarding her previous statement about his behavior. Ji-woo looks at him blankly and questions what he has been doing with his time lately. A sudden, quick step sounds as Ji-woo starts to walk away with a dismissive comment about their activities.
Ji-woo reflects on Jun-soo's mysterious reputation, from his perfect grades to his many piercings and unknown personal life.
A sudden, quiet realization sounds as Ji-woo wonders if his outward appearance is the true reason for his reputation. Soo-hyun notes that Jun-soo reportedly works part-time jobs and seems to have a very strong interest in fashion. They continue walking as Soo-hyun wonders about Jun-soo's other traits, while Ji-woo concludes he seems problem-free. Ji-woo stares ahead and brings up the topic of Kim Jun-soo from the first-year class once again. She remembers hearing girls gossip about how Jun-soo accepted a confession only to ignore subsequent messages.
The girls in her memory question Junsu's sincerity, suggesting he looks like a player who doesn't date seriously.
Jiwoo listens as the gossip continues, with others claiming Jinsu likely behaved the same way in middle school. Narration explains that despite the track team's dating ban, boys were always eager to pursue Soyeon. A smartphone displays cold and dismissive text messages from Kim Jin-soo claiming he stopped responding because it wasn't fun. A brown-haired boy with glasses and several piercings watches intently from behind a window. The brown-haired boy stands in his school jacket as narration remarks that appearances are impossible to ignore. Jiwoo looks at Soohyun with a neutral expression and questions the importance of a student's outward appearance. Labels point out Jiwoo's sharp eyes and short skirt, concluding she looks like a delinquent to most people.
Jiwoo realizes Soyeon also initially feared her as a bully, leading her to question her own look.
Soohyun turns his head to look at her as she stands frozen in thought on the sidewalk. A sudden, quick stop sounds as Jiwoo asks Soohyun if he has any other questions for her today.
She looks at him with a slight smile and asks if he also considers her to look like a delinquent.
A sudden, quiet gasp sounds as Soohyun freezes in shock at the direct and unexpected question.
Soohyun looks completely caught off guard, admitting he never expected to be asked such a thing. Jiwoo tells him to stop overthinking her intentions and just be honest about what he sees.
She points at herself and demands to know what his first impression of her really is. She asks once more if she looks like a troublemaker or someone who plays around with others' feelings. Soohyun looks away awkwardly, admitting he isn't sure about the part where she plays around. He looks her in the eyes and bluntly states that he thinks she simply looks pretty.
Jiwoo stares at him in stunned silence, completely unprepared for his honest and direct compliment.
A sudden, frantic stammer sounds as Soohyun panics, realizing he said exactly what was on his mind. An awkward silence falls between the two students as they stand together on the sidewalk. A sudden, quick turn sounds as Jiwoo brushes it off and expresses her relief at his answer. She walks ahead, deciding there's no use in worrying about the situation any longer. She concludes that she should simply ask Junsu about the rumors herself the next time they meet. A sudden, heavy sigh sounds as Soohyun slumps in exhaustion, wondering why the conversation happened at all. The scene shifts to the school building standing under a clear and bright afternoon sky. In the cafeteria, Jiwoo looks at Soyeon in surprise and asks why she is bringing this up so suddenly.
Soyeon chews her food thoughtfully and admits she never viewed Kim Jin-soo in a romantic light before.
Jiwoo takes a sip of her drink and asks what Soyeon's actual impression of him was then.
The two friends sit across from each other, a moment of quiet contemplation filling the space.
A sudden, quick crunch sounds as Soyeon crushes her bread back and declares that she viewed him as an enemy.
Jiwoo points out that Soyeon and her childhood friend hang out so much they should simply consider themselves friends, leaving the black-haired girl completely shocked.
A sudden, quiet mumble sounds in the cafeteria as Jiwoo notices Kim Jin-soo walking by and points him out to her friend. Jiwoo tells her friend to go talk to him, but Soyeon frantically refuses and tells her to go instead.
Jinsu looks at his phone and lets out a curious sound as he walks through the room.
A sudden, quiet chuckle sounds as Jiwoo teases Soyeon, who is horrified to see the boy appearing right in front of them.
Junsu turns his head to look back at the two girls. Junsu approaches their table while Soyeon flinches in surprise.
A sudden, quick tap sounds as Jinsu uses his phone while standing near them. Soyeon stares up at him with a nervous, blank expression.
Soyeon is shocked as she stares at her phone.
Narration questions if the boy ignored her warnings as Jiwoo asks what has happened to cause such a reaction. A sudden, low whistle sounds as the chat history reveals Junsu flatly refused to stop contacting her.
Jiwoo calls her friend a fool as Soyeon stares blankly at her phone screen.
Junsu stands over the two girls in the school cafeteria. A sudden, quick whoosh sounds as Junsu asks why they are idling in the cafeteria instead of writing reports, leading Soyeon to grow angry. Soyeon snaps back at him for interfering in her business, while Jiwoo realizes they are about to start bickering once again.
Sooyeon peeks from behind a wall to watch the group.
Jiwoo spots Sooyeon and asks what he is doing, while labels describe him as a gloomy stalker.
In a stylized scene, Soohyun makes a pitiful gesture asking Jiwoo for help, and she reluctantly agrees to assist him. Jiwoo points out that he needs to become friends with Soyeon as well and encourages him to speak up.
Soohyun remains hidden behind a wall with a worried expression.
Soohyun looks completely overwhelmed and shocked by the sudden request.
Desperate messages appear on the screen as Soohyun claims he absolutely cannot do it because there are too many people.
Narration notes Jiwoo's judgmental gaze as she warns him he'll never have friends, leading Soohyun to frantically agree to try.
Soohyun finally approaches the group with a nervous and hesitant look. He looks at Soyeon and calls out her name cautiously.
Soohyun stutters out a painful and awkward attempt to ask for her time, looking completely terrified.
Jiwoo calls him a fool while narration notes that no one can even understand what he is trying to say.
Soyeon stammers in confusion as Jiwoo reflects on how even the top student has turned into a fool.
Junsu interrupts the awkward scene and suggests they go talk while walking around the playground instead of staying in the cafeteria.
Jiwoo looks thoughtful as she considers the boy's reasonable suggestion.
Crowds of students gather and gossip about a potential confession, leading Jiwoo to conclude that they really should move elsewhere. Other students express their disappointment when the group decides to leave without any interesting drama occurring.
Jiwoo waves goodbye to the pair and warns them not to return until they have resolved their issues.
A sudden quick click sounds as the cafeteria door crosses.
Jiwoo looks at Junsu and suggests that they should also find a different place to talk. Junsu looks at her with total confusion and asks why he should go anywhere with her.
A sudden, low scrape sounds as Jiwoo stands up from the table with a determined look. She explains that she wants to move because there are too many ears listening to their conversation. Junsu looks at her with a flat and unreadable expression.
Jiwoo gazes at him and states that she has something she is very curious about regarding him.
Bright light fills the school building as the scene transitions.
Jinsu stands alone and waits for her to speak first. The two childhood friends walk away together in the distance.
Jinsu looks back and asks her to continue with that.
Jiwoo faces him directly, ready to ask her serious question.
A close-up reveals Jiwoo's focused and intensely curious gaze.
Jiwoo looks him in the eye and directly asks him if he currently has a girlfriend.
Jinsu looks surprised by the question but bluntly states that he does not have one.
Jiwoo asks what Soyeon is to him, and Junsu clarifies that she is simply a friend.
A chilly silence falls as the two students face one another in the stairwell.
Jiwoo looks visibly annoyed and closes her eyes while deep in thought.
A sudden quick tap sounds as Jiwoo admits she is not good at being indirect. Junsu agrees with her assessment, leaving Jiwoo feeling slightly irritated by his response.
Jiwoo fixes her gaze on him and addresses him with newfound seriousness.
She asks him if he knows a specific senior from the track team named Im Chaeyeon.
She describes the senior as someone notorious for having a terrible personality.
Junsu acknowledges the person she is talking about with a neutral and focused gaze. Jiwoo asks if the rumor about him dumping the senior for being boring is true.
She questions if he called her out just to discuss such trivial school rumors.
Junsu begins to address the nature of his relationship with the track senior. He bluntly states that his personal business has nothing to do with her concerns. Jiwoo reacts to his dismissive comment with a moment of quiet frustration.
A sudden, firm grip sounds as Jiwoo accepts her status as a passing stranger.
Jiwoo mentions the school rumors once more, but Junsu remains completely indifferent.
She asks him if he truly feels no concern for his public reputation. Jinsu looks away and gives a non-committal response regarding his feelings. Junsu stands alone in the stairwell, contemplating the direction of their conversation. Jiwoo notes that rumors of him being a player have spread through the entire school. She asks if he is bothered by how his image has degraded among his peers. Junsu ponders the idea of maintaining a public image with a neutral expression. Junsu points out that Jiwoo's words seem strangely defensive of his own interests.
Jiwoo looks up at him with a steady and expectant gaze from the stairs.
Jiwoo prepares to share her honest perspective on the track senior with him. She admits she actually felt satisfied hearing that the senior had been rejected. Junsu concludes that if she knows the truth, the rumor shouldn't matter to her. He suggests that her concern is misplaced if she doesn't believe the gossip herself. He tells her to stop making such a worried look about his reputation.
A moment of quiet understanding passes between the two students on the school stairs.
Jiwoo stands with her friend, reflecting on her earlier confrontation with Junseo. She considers his comment about the vulnerable expression she was making earlier.
A sudden quiet creak sounds as a younger Jiwoo opens her school locker. In a memory, she reflects on her past lack of courage and confidence.
A sudden quiet whisper sounds as students spread rumors about her in middle school.
Jiwoo hangs her head low as she walks past her judgmental classmates in the past.
In the present, she realizes she was making that same pained look again.
Junsu clarifies that he never dated the senior and simply called her boring.
He explains that the senior's reputation for being unfunny was well known to everyone. Jiwoo realizes that while the rumors contain facts, the context was entirely wrong.
Jiwoo offers a soft and sincere apology for judging him based on rumors.
She admits she had subconsciously allowed her own biases to cloud her judgment.
Junsu looks at her with a calm and surprisingly gentle expression. He dismisses her apology, claiming he is used to being judged by his appearance.
A sudden quiet chuckle sounds as Junsu teases her for looking like a delinquent.
Jiwoo starts to defend her own look while acknowledging their shared predicament.
A sudden quick blink sounds as Jiwoo focuses on their ongoing conversation.
The two students continue their talk in a much more relaxed and friendly atmosphere.
Junsu asks her if he needs to provide any further proof of his honesty. Jiwoo stares back at him with a calm and thoughtful expression. She offers a small smile and decides that she finally trusts his word. Jinsu stands quietly in his school uniform and black varsity jacket. Jiwoo notes he isn't the type to toy with others, but Junsu flatly disagrees. The two students stand apart in the brightly lit stairwell. Jiwoo is left staring blankly with a look of utter confusion. They watch as their two friends walk away together in the distance. Soohyun and Soyeon look drained as they wander aimlessly outside.
Jiwoo feels guilty and wonders if she should have accompanied Ben. Soohyun laments how difficult it is to make friends while Soyeon agrees.
Soyeon's attention is captured as someone calls out her name.
Jiwoo cheerily declares that she has gained her second male friend.
Soyeon is completely flabbergasted by her friend's casual and sudden announcement.
The four students gather awkwardly on the concrete outdoor bleachers. Soyeon notices that their lunch break has already come to an end.
She panics upon remembering she has a class change for the next period.
Soyeon sprints toward the school building while the others watch her go.
Soohyun watches her retreat and quietly reflects on how cute she is.
Jiwoo leans toward Junsu to continue their interrupted conversation. Junsu informs her that they have physical education next and must change.
Jiwoo berates him for the late notice while Soohyun offers a tearful apology. Junsu turns and begins to walk away from the outdoor stairs. He glances back at his friends as they scramble toward their classes.
Junsu stands alone in the quiet area, lost in his thoughts.
He pulls out his phone to check his incoming notifications.
A message on the screen asks if he is available this weekend.
Junsu gazes at the text with a neutral and unreadable expression.
A sudden quick rustle sounds as he puts his phone away.
He begins to walk back toward the main school building Holearn. Soyeon looks shocked as she questions when a specific event happened. A classmate explains that everyone is meeting over the weekend for reports. Soyeon is horrified as the classmate teases her about it being a date. She's so startled that she drops her notebooks onto the floor. The group works through a mountain of study materials and school reports. Junsu pauses his work to address the group with a serious con.
The four friends sit around a large table in a cafe.
Jiwoo questions Junsu's possessiveness while trying to organize a group handout.
Junsu tells Jiwoo she should just head home if she's bored. Jiwoo insists on staying while Soyeon looks completely overwhelmed by work.
Soyeon takes a sip of her drink while preparing a question.
She recalls the earlier conversation about meeting separately over the weekend.
She stares at her report, wondering when to bring up the subject.
Jiwoo's question causes Soyeon to spit out her drink and check. The table is in chaos as Jiwoo asks if she is all right.
Soyeon wipes her face and mentions her weekend part-time job.
A sudden, quiet scratch sounds as Junsu continues writing his notes.
Soohyun asks how he manages both while Junsu explains his study habits.
Jiwoo is curious about what kind of job allows for simultaneous studying.
Junsu notes that there are plenty of jobs with such flexibility.
The group falls into a silent, intense stare-down across the table.
Soohyun asks why he goes through such effort to do both.
Soohyun suggests that Junsu should simply focus on working for money.
Junsu looks off to the side and thoughtfully ponders the current situation.
Junsu looks directly forward and simply asks the group if they find it fun.
The group stares in disbelief at Junsu, collectively labeling him as a crazy guy.
Soyeon looks shocked and asks how a high schooler manages to study while working.
The group continues their study session while questioning how he maintains perfect test scores. Soyeon trembles with frustration, noting she makes mistakes despite studying for an entire day.
A sudden, firm thud sounds as Soyeon clenches her fist tightly against the table. Soyeon stares intensely at Junsu as he continues his work across the cafe table. Soyeon considers her request reckless but decides she must monitor his studying at work. Junsu remains silent as he listens to her strange proposal with a neutral expression.
Junsu looks thoughtful and decides that the proposed arrangement would be fine with him.
Junsu mentions his quiet cafe job but notes he must ask his boss first. A sudden loud bang sounds as Jiwoo reacts explosively to the news of their plan. Jiwoo points out that Soyeon cannot even navigate a bus route on her own.
Junsu looks up from his phone and asks if she truly cannot ride buses.
Soyeon takes a sip of her drink and suddenly remembers a detail from yesterday.
Soyeon cheerily mentions that a personal driver came to pick her up instead.
A chilly silence falls as Jiwoo and Junsu stare back with blank expressions. Soyeon wonders if she should also begin studying bus routes to prepare for the future.
Jiwoo and Junsu agree to avoid asking for more details about her sheltered life.
Jiwoo pats Soyeon's head and warns Junsu not to ruin the quiet cafe. Junsu explains the cafe is quiet and usually only used for studying anyway. Jiwoo gives him a skeptical look and tells him to handle the situation himself. A sudden, quiet buzz sounds as Soyeon notices a new notification on her phone.
Soyeon looks at her phone as a digital request appears on the mobile screen.
The message instructs her to eat lunch and meet him by Saturday morning.
Junsu looks at her with an expression questioning if his digital message counts as contact.
Soyeon stares blankly at her phone screen after receiving the sudden weekend instructions.
Soyeon reflects on whether she has ever met a boy separately on a weekend. Her classmates panic and shout about teaching her how to use hairstyling tools. A friend suggests buying date clothes because Soyeon certainly lacks any suitable options. A sudden, quiet crack sounds as Soyeon reacts to her friend's blunt and hurtful assessment.
A sudden, loud slam sounds as Soyeon screams that the meeting is not a date.
Soyeon nervously explains she's only following him to see his part-time job.
A sudden, loud boom sounds as her classmates react with dramatic and theatrical shock.
A friend teases her about her noble quest to experience commoner life while she yells. A sudden, quiet thud sounds as Soyeon buries her head in her arms in embarrassment. A close-up shows Soyeon looking at her phone with a blushing and nervous gaze. She examines the digital map for the cafe's location on her mobile screen.
Soyeon rests her head on her arms while looking at the map with soft eyes. The scene transitions to the exterior of a quiet building named Café Tourmaline.
A woman with long, wavy hair sits alone at a table inside the cafe. A sudden, quiet chime sounds as she reads a message thread from Junsu.
Junsu replies with a confirmation and asks if he can bring a friend along.
The woman holds her phone up while looking thoughtful in the nearly empty cafe.
A
A sudden quick tap sounds as she types a response asking if the friend is a girl.
The woman smirks slightly as she looks back toward the entrance of the cafe.
A sudden quiet thud sounds as she places her hand over the phone screen.
She notes he never reads messages unless they concern work, then mentions the girl.
A sudden quiet creak sounds as the woman shifts in her chair while waiting.
The cafe boss looks off to the side with a slight, knowing smirk.
Bright morning light shines on the modern facade of Cafe Tourmaline.
So-yeon looks completely miserable while lamenting her lack of sleep. She stands awkwardly in the date clothes chosen for her by her friends.
So-yeon questions why she had to dress up when her real goal is monitoring.
She gazes into the shop while reflecting on her true weekend mission. The beautiful and trendy cafe interior immediately captures her attention.
So-yeon wonders about the owner and if they are close to Junsu.
A hand waves as Junsu calls her name to get her attention. Junsu notes that she was distracted and didn't answer him at first.
Junsu stands at the counter in his school glasses and earrings.
He leans towards So-yeon, invading her personal space unexpectedly. A sudden, loud thud sounds as So-yeon frantically pushes Junsu away. Junsu looks confused and asks why she reacted so violently. So-yeon blushes intensely and looks away in total embarrassment.
Junsu points to the espresso machine as they begin her training.
So-yeon looks completely overwhelmed by the mountain of technical coffee instructions.
Junsu watches her struggle with a calm and surprisingly patient expression.
He simplifies her task, telling her to focus only on Americano orders.
So-yeon is insulted while wondering if her struggle with the machine was detected.
She resolves to master the simple task with perfect and intense focus.
A diagram illustrates the simple, repetitive steps required to make an Americano.
So-yeon recalls the rumor that the cafe is usually very empty.
She plans to focus on monitoring Junsu's study habits once things settle.
The cafe lounge remains peaceful and quiet for a short time.
Suddenly, a massive crowd of customers floods into the building.
Junsu informs a customer he will alert them using the notification buzzer.
The service counter becomes a chaotic blur of overlapping drink orders.
So-yeon cries as she realizes the quiet rumor was a lie. A sudden, firm thud sounds as Junsu grabs her shoulders. He instructs her to stop working for a moment and go rest. Junsu looks tired but remains determined to handle the busy rush. He adjusts his uniform while preparing to continue serving the crowd. So-yeon wonders if cafe work is always this physically taxing.
She notices that many customers are staring directly at the counter.
Junsu recites a business number while a customer listens with interest.
So-yeon begins to suspect something is odd about the customer's behavior.
A customer openly comments on how handsome the male part-timer is.
A woman in a leather jacket and cap arrives at the car. Jiwoo removes her cap and reveals her identity to her surprised friends.
Jiwoo explains her suspicions while Soo-hyun laments being dragged out on the weekends.
The group gathers at the counter as So-young questions Jiwoo's presence.
Jiwoo instructs them to look at her phone and check the cafe's social media.
The phone screen displays a viral post promoting the local cafe. So-yeon reads the post and questions the handsome part-timer title.
Junsu and So-yeon stare back with completely blank and stunned expressions. The two students continue their silent stare-down in total shock.
So-yeon questions if Junsu is the attraction while Jiwoo confirms the obvious. A sudden, quiet thud sounds as Jiwoo places her hand over the phone.
Jiwoo warns that the manager is clearly using viral marketing to tease her.
So-yeon stands behind the counter and nervously attempts to get someone's attention. A blonde woman in a white tank top asks if they are taking orders.
The blonde woman looks annoyed and offers a brief, insincere apology for her behavior.
The man in the black top standing with her begins to decide on his order. He decides to order a deep white choco strawberry latte from the menu.
So-yeon thinks the sweet drink order is a complete mismatch for his tough appearance.
Junsu remains professional as he hands a notification buzzer to the waiting customer.
The blonde woman looks at Junsu and suggests that he should simply quit this job.
The customers depart the building as a sudden, quiet chime sounds from the door.
The woman in the leather jacket walks away while carrying her finished drink. She continues walking down the street without looking back at the quiet cafe. A close-up focus highlights the dark, wavy hair of a woman seated nearby.
The cafe manager sits alone and wears a knowing smirk while holding a buzzer.
Junsi works at the counter while So-young cleans the tables in the lounge.
So-young leans against a table and laments how physically taxing part-time work is.
She watches Junsu work and admits her monitoring plan was a total failure.
So-yeon feels a wave of pity seeing how much effort he puts into working.
A close-up focus shows the back of Junsu's uniform as he continues his tasks.
So-yeon stares intently at him while realizing she has a new, sudden realization.
She examines the cafe's social media and wonders if viral posts are truly effective.
So-yeon recalls the claim that the cafe was quiet and feels completely deceived.
She stares at the back of Junsu's head with a look of deep suspicion.
Junsu looks at his phone while So-yeon reacts with a look of pure confusion.
Junsu informs her that the business day for the cafe has officially concluded. He checks a message on his screen and suggests they begin closing immediately. Junsu unties his apron and mentions that the shop is closing earlier than usual. Junsu suspects the manager realized their marketing plan was discovered by the students.
A sudden, quiet rustle sounds as Junsu removes his work gear for the day.
Junsu looks at So-yeon and asks what she would like to do now. Soyeon looks completely baffled and asks for clarification regarding his unexpected question.
Junsu turns his back to her as he places his apron on the counter.
Junsu turns back toward her and asks if she wants to back dinner. So-yeon stands frozen in shock after receiving the sudden and direct dinner invitation.
The two students stand in the empty cafe as the evening light fades.
A white sign hanging on the glass door indicates the cafe is now closed.
So-yeon chews her food in silence with an intensely focused and serious expression.
Junsu sits directly across from her and begins writing notes in his workbook.
The pair shares a quiet meal together at a small table in the cafe.
So-yeon cries while eating and declares the meal the best she has ever had.
Junsu offered to cook while So-yeon mistakenly thought they were going to a restaurant. So-yeon is shocked he is studying after only 10 minutes of eating their meal.
She realizes her mission was to stop him from studying, not watch him.
A sudden, quiet thud sounds as So-yeon stops eating and stares at him.
A close-up shows a hand reaching out towards So-yeon's face across the table.
So-yeon looks up in surprise as she feels a hand touch her face.
Junsu gently cups her cheek while looking at her with a calm expression.
Junsu acknowledges that she had to handle an incredible amount of work today.
So-yeon blushes a deep crimson as she looks at him with wide, startled eyes.
A sudden, quick tap sounds as So-yeon frantically pushes his hand away.
So-yeon screams that she wasn't tired at all while Junsu watches her embarrassment.
Junsu tells her the manager is paying triple today. So-yeon is amazed and asks if he can really do that.
Junsu explains the owner is rich and runs the cafe as a hobby. He notes the manager seems angry because he hasn't been around lately. So-yeon thinks the situation is ruthless.
So-yeon wonders if the manager is punishing him despite the triple pay. She recalls Junsu saying he works for fun. A close-up focus shows So-yeon wondering if there is a different reason for his behavior.
The pair sits together. So-yeon suggests studying in a more comfortable place would be better than this.
A close-up focus highlights the workbook and pencil case on the table. So-yeon thinks that as high school seniors, every weekend is important. The two students stare at each other in silence across the small cafe table.
Junsu looks at her with a calm and unreadable expression.
A close-up focus shows the bottom of Jungsu's face as he mentions his hobby.
The two continue their meal and study session at the small table from an overhead view.
In a chibi-style panel, So-yeon argues that work isn't a hobby. Junsu calls her a dummy and says it's preparation for a hobby.
So-yeon looks annoyed and reacts to being called a dummy.
So-yeon reflects on Junsu's school life, noting he never wears the same jacket twice despite the school's ban on private clothes.
So-yeon watches Junsu and finds seeing him outside of school fascinating. She looks at him and feels as though he is older than her.
Junsu asks if she has a hobby of her own. So-yeon looks surprised by the question.
So-yeon hesitates and looks away while trying to think of an answer. So-yeon forcedly smiles and claims that studying is her primary hobby.
Junsu looks at her and asks what she likes to do besides studying.
So-yeon recalls quitting competitive shooting because it was only for her parents' social gatherings.
The pair remains at the table as evening light fills the quiet cafe lounge.
Junsu looks directly at her and says having a hobby is beneficial.
He admits it might seem like a waste of time for seniors, but it's helpful.
A sudden, quiet chomp sounds as So-yeon eats while questioning how a hobby could possibly help her study.
Junsu explains that it helps specifically for the moments when you lose the will to study.
So-yeon asks in shock if he also struggles with studying. Junsu notes he is human too.
He explains that doing something you enjoy helps you recover your focus quickly.
So-yeon looks at him with a thoughtful and quiet expression. A close-up focus highlights the side of So-yeon's face as she listens.
A flashback shows So-young in her school uniform looking serious and determined.
In the flashback, So-yeon looks flustered while holding her school uniform bell. So-yeon looks away and admits she doesn't know how to do anything else.
Flashback panels show them playing as kids. So-young claims those moments were actually a study method. Junsu asks if she has anyone she talks to. He suggests sharing her thoughts might make her feel better.
So-yeon looks confused by his suggestion to talk about her feelings.
She looks down at her food and thinks she doesn't need to complain about studying.
So-young thinks it would be embarrassing for the top liberal arts student to complain. Junsu tells her she can talk to him.
So-yeon stops eating and looks at him with a completely stunned expression.
Junsu points out that she is already talking to him anyway.
So-yeon panics as she realizes she was just whining to her academic rival. A flashback shows a younger Junsu and So-yeon. She reflects that it has always been like this between them.
So-yeon looks at Junsu and thinks everything always happens according to his pace. So-yeon looks skeptical and tells him she doesn't believe hobbies help with studying.
Junsu looks at her calmly and asks if she finds him that untrustworthy.
Captions highlight Junsu's perfect academic record as the nationwide top student. So-yeon curses his perfection.
So-yeon looks at him with a defeated and grumpy expression.
So-yeon collapses face down on her bed at home and laments her exhausting day and dead legs. She lies on her side and reflects on Junsu's claim about part-time work being study preparation. So-yeon looks at her phone and wonders if his method is truly effective.
A sudden quiet tap sounds as So-yeon begins typing a message on her phone.
So-yeon regrets her own contact rule while feeling hesitant to message. Her attention is taken by a sudden quiet notification sounding.
Junsu messages about Sunday study plan while she considers what to ask.
She stares at the screen, processing his suggestion for their schedule.
A sudden, quick tap sounds as she sends a brief agreement.
She walks across the room, lamenting her heavy workload for tomorrow. Resting her chin on her hand, she ponders her current feelings.
A soft blush warms her cheeks as she lost in thought. She looks at her desk, wondering why her heart feels strange.
A single street lamp illuminates the city beneath a twilight sky.
The brief text exchange remains visible on the glowing phone screen.
Elsewhere, Junsu walks down the street during a quiet evening stroll.
A sudden quiet tap sounds as he begins his phone conversation.
The caller notes the rarity of him reaching out first.
Junsu listens intently to the voice on the other end.
He mentions the strange social media post made by the manager. He requests the manager only post such things when he is alone.
The woman on the phone asks if his friend is truly precious.
Junsu explains that the sudden workload would fluster anyone with a friend.
The wavy-haired woman listens while sitting in a modern lounge area. She recalls the girl from earlier and comments on her cuteness.
A technician asks what kind of design she would like to there.
The woman smirks while continuing her teasing conversation with the scene.
A focus highlights the colorful array of decorative nail art options.
The wavy-haired woman's expression remains knowing and playful during the call.
She decides it is inappropriate to wear such designs around students.
She instructs the technician to remove her nail art completely.
Junsu remains on the line with a serious and focused expression. He asks for clarification on what she intends to do next.
She announces her plan to visit him soon, catching him off guard.
Junsi reacts with disbelief to the nonsensical news she just heard.
A sudden quiet click sounds as the woman abruptly ends their call. Junsu stares at his phone, stunned by the manager's unexpected declaration. He stands alone on the sidewalk and releases a weary sigh.
The wavy-haired woman poses elegantly, exuding an air of sophisticated confidence.
At school, students plan a meal while Soyeon prepares for studying.
Jiwoo gets Soyeon's attention and points toward the classroom entrance.
Jinsu arrives at the door, prompting Jiwoo to announce her boyfriend's arrival.
Soyeon frantically denies the claim while her friend continues the teasing.
Jiwoo teases her about the date as Junsu approaches their test.
Soyeon brings up the report deadline and offers to help in.
The two students stand together amidst the bustle of the classroom.
Soyeon asks who he is looking for since no one else is here.
Junsu turns away and begins walking toward the classroom door.
He looks back at her with a calm and steady gaze.
The school gates are busy as the student body departs. A sudden quick turn sounds as Jinsu shifts his attention back.
Soyeon looks confused and asks what is happening outside the room. Jinsu suggests they head home and suddenly takes her by the hand.
Soyeon blushes a deep crimson, completely overwhelmed by his sudden boldness.
Soyeon looks back in shock and questions what is happening as Junsu departs.
A sudden quick tap sounds as Junsu leads a flustered Soyeon through the hallway. A steady rhythm of footfalls echoes as they hurry down the school stairs together. A sudden firm grip sounds as Junsu holds Soyeon's wrist tightly while walking.
Soyeon asks what is happening and if there is a reason for his haste.
Junsu insists nothing is wrong and tells her she should just go home immediately.
Soyeon stops and looks at him, confused by his unexpected and cold instruction to leave.
A sudden quiet pause sounds as Soyeon hesitates and calls for him to wait.
She watches his retreating back, questioning the strange behavior of her academic rival.
Soyeon wonders if he finally caught on to her repeated attempts to interfere with his studying. She reflects that working together for a week might have made him feel distracted. Soyeon resolves not to let Jinsu study alone after imagining his relief to be rid of her. Standing her ground, Soyeon declares her intention to follow him wherever he goes. Junsu sighs and begs her to just go home this one time despite his tolerance. Soyeon remains skeptical, demanding that he reveal his dark motives for trying to push her away. A realization dawns on her as she wonders if his behavior relates to her.
A stylish woman in a plaid shirt and shorts walks confidently through the crowd. Junsu and Soyeon spot the woman, and Junsu's expression becomes visibly troubled.
The dark-haired woman waves cheerfully, greeting the two students with a bright, knowing smile. Jiwoo and her classmate arrive at the cafe, responding to Soyeon's urgent distress message. Sitting comfortably at a table, the woman exudes an air of playful and sophisticated confidence.
Soyeon fumes in silence, while Junsu sits beside her looking deeply uncomfortable and annoyed.
From an overhead view, the group gathers in the cafe as the tension rises.
Jiwoo and her friend watch the drama from a distance while enjoying their drinks.
The wavy-haired woman enjoys the student's obvious confusion while resting her chin on her hand.
Jiwoo is disgusted by the situation as Junsu explains he wanted to prevent this encounter.
Soyeon stares at the older woman, wondering if she is Junsu's former girlfriend.
The woman addresses Soyeon by name and asks why she isn't eating her cake.
Jiwoo spits out her drink in shock while Soyeon questions the woman's true identity.
Jiwoo frantically pulls her friend back, apologizing for Soyeon's rude and direct behavior.
Jinsu looks toward the woman with a serious and pained expression.
Junsu admits his presence during dates made it impossible for the other person to study. The entire group is frozen in a state of utter disbelief at his casual admission.
Jiwoo is overcome with rage while her friend desperately tries to prevent a scene.
The black-haired student asks why they would date if studying was their only priority.
Jinsu looks away and admits his behavior was disrespectful to the other person involved.
The wavy-haired woman begins to explain the truth behind their strange and complicated bond.
She offers a knowing smile as she prepares to resolve the group's massive confusion. A sudden, loud thud sounds as Junsu stands up and grabs the woman's hands. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Junsu sternly warns the woman not to say more.
Ignoring his protest, the woman continues her explanation with a calm and amused expression. The entire group remains at the table from an overhead view during the revelation. Jiwoo and the other students stare in silence, waiting for the woman to finish.
So-yeon is left completely speechless, her wide eyes reflecting her total shock and bewilderment.
The woman explains her dream of opening a cafe and her search for staff.
She recalls the many applicants who only wanted to ask for her personal contact information.
A close-up focus highlights her eyes as she describes the difficulty of finding workers.
She explains that she found a student who needed a job and hired in.
She reveals that she pretends to be Junsu's girlfriend in exchange for his manual labor. The three students react with collective confusion, struggling to understand the logic of the deal.
The wavy-haired cafe manager looks thoughtfully at the students.
She explains that they might not know the full story behind their bond.
Grinning, she praises Junsu's combination of brains and model-like features.
She claims she protected him from distractions while So-yeon reflects on why other girls stayed away.
So-yeon acknowledges the woman's beauty and her significant influence on Junsu's reputation.
The woman reveals her shock at being dumped by Junsu when he entered his senior year. She playfully pats Junsu's head while her friend feels a wave of pity for him.
She notes his habit of ignoring any messages that aren't strictly professional or work-related.
Jinsu listens as she admits her surprise at his recent and unexpected response to her. The two women lock eyes in a moment of silent and curious observation.
Shocked and overwhelmed, So-yeon's face reflects her sudden and total confusion.
So-yeon loudly denies being anything more than a platonic female friend to her rival. The cafe owner finds So-yeon's reaction adorable while the student feels she is being teased. A profile shot shows the cafe manager's calm, elegant, and knowing expression.
She muses that she might finally stop worrying about Junsu's social life and future.
Jinsu looks at her with a serious expression and asks for a clearer explanation. She responds with a playful and mysterious smile while avoiding his direct question. The three girls and Junsu remain gathered together around the cafe table. Jiwoo mentions that So-yeon had to suffer greatly because of the earlier situation. The woman reacts with a brief and silent expression of mild surprise. She argues that his looks are necessary marketing to attract customers to her quiet cafe. She gestures toward the empty lounge area, noting the lack of regular visitors today. She apologizes for the earlier crowd while Junsu complains about her inappropriate social media posts. Junsu prepares to leave for study while So-yeon questions his mention of specific photos.
A glowing smartphone screen displays a social media post featuring the quiet cafe.
Smiling brightly, the wavy-haired woman invites the group to return whenever they like. She offers So-yeon free service while the student responds with a hesitant and polite agreement.
Outside, the students discuss their various schedules as they walk down the city street.
So-yeon watches Junsu walk away, her mind stuck on the mentioned social media photos.
She walks home, unable to stop thinking about the mysterious and potentially revealing post.
Junsu turns back and asks what kind of photos were actually posted on the account.
Jiwoo looks at him with a knowing and slightly mischievous expression on her face.
She explains that some photos look exactly like they were taken by a close girlfriend.
Jiwoo teases him about the authentic boyfriend-style photos from their past dating days.
So-yeon looks bewildered and asks for clarification on what her friend is talking about. Curious and determined, she declares her urgent need to see the photos for herself.
Jiwoo asks if she has an account and suggests they follow each other immediately.
So-yeon admits her complete lack of knowledge regarding how to even use the application. Jiwoo laments her friend's total focus on academics over basic social media trends.
Later at home, So-yeon holds her phone showing her new profile with 3 followers.
She finds it fascinating that profiles reveal so much about her friends' unique personalities.
She scrolls through her list of followed friends on the glowing mobile screen. Upon checking Junsu's profile, she is disappointed to find it completely empty and silent.
She wonders what kind of person Junsu is while staring intently at her phone.
A recommended account for the cafe catches her eye as she continues to scroll.
She recalls Jiwoo's teasing comment about the authentic boyfriend-style photos from earlier.
So-yeon resolves to check the cafe's page since that was her original goal today. The screen reveals a candid photo of Junsu working seriously behind the cafe counter.
Stunned, So-yeon marvels at his model-like appearance and the shock of seeing it. She realizes the true motive for the crowds was Junsu, not the coffee.
So-yeon looks at her phone in her room, letting out a confused sound. A photo on the social media screen shows Junsu sitting very close to the woman.
So-yeon notes the manager's legs in the photo and wonders how close they sat.
She questions if even a business partnership requires such intimate proximity and physical contact.
A memory of a hand holding a pen over a notebook appears in her mind.
She wonders if she and Junsu were ever that physically close during their study sessions.
Panicked by her own train of thought, So-yeon wonders what is wrong of her.
She tries to force herself to forget the photos and focus on her studying. The scene shifts to the exterior of the school building on a clear sunny day. A green sign marks the entrance to the quiet self-study room. Soyeon directs Jiwoo and a classmate to pose for a specific reference photo.
The black-haired boy blushes while Jiwoo remains stoic and indifferent beside her.
Soyeon continues her peculiar photography project while the pair remains seated on the couch. Junsu announces that the report is finished while Soyeon experiences a comedic moment of relief. She reflects on the annoying teacher but appreciates adding an activity to her student record.
Soyeon feels empowered to finally give her full attention to studying for midterm exams.
Junsu asks if she is going to class while resting his hand on her shoulder.
He simply tells her it is time to go and turns to lead the way.
Soyeon pauses in silence, looking at the shoulder where he just touched her. They walk through the school corridor as Junsu checks messages on his smartphone. Soyeon wonders if she should just ask him about his past relationship in the photos. A girl greets Junsu in the hallway and he gives a brief, polite response. The greeting makes Soyeon hesitate, fearing that asking might be seen as rude behavior. Remembering Jiwoo's advice, she worries about overstepping personal boundaries with her academic rival. Frustrated, she regrets not paying more attention when her friends discuss their dating lives. Junsu suddenly calls her name, causing her to let out a sharp, startled gasp. He asks why she is so shocked while pointing toward his intended direction. Soyeon sighs in exhaustion, questioning what she is even doing as he walks away.
Junsu stops and realizes he forgot to mention one more important detail.
He turns back and asks if she has forgotten the agreement they made. He stares intently while mentioning the consequences if she decides not to study today. An angry Chibi Soyeon shouts that she is already planning to study immediately.
A sudden firm step sounds as she marches away with a determined expression.
She grumbles internally, wondering if he thinks she is some kind of study-hating partner. Soyeon stops in the hallway and looks towards something with a curious expression.
She spots a couple hugging and realizes she is noticing romantic displays more often.
She wonders if all couples stay that close and reflects on other pairs she's seen.
Soyeon wonders if Junsu and the manager looked like that while dating.
She arrives at classroom 311 and realizes it is Jiwoo and her classmate's room.
A thoughtful expression crosses her face as a new idea begins to form.
Soyeon looks at the boy and girl, considering their potential roles for her experiment.
A sudden bright realization sounds as she comes up with a plan to test something.
Jiwoo rests her eyes while the black-haired student sits beside her looking very uncomfortable.
The boy questions the necessity of the task while Soyeon insists she is just curious. He admits he is only helping because she is a childhood friend he recently reconnected with. He wonders why she is so interested in this particular romantic proximity.
Soyeon asks them to get even closer, causing the boy to shout in shocked disbelief.
A sudden nervous flinch sounds as their legs touch while following her strict instructions.
Jiwoo remains completely asleep, unaware of the awkward situation happening right beside her.
Jiwoo's head rests peacefully on the black-haired student's shoulder.
A yawn sounds as Jiwoo mentions feeling sleepy after lunch.
Soyeon declares she is finished and tells them to separate.
The flustered boy asks if she is done with the photos.
Soyeon reflects on how close they sought for the photo. Jiwoo claims some level of skinship is expected when dating.
Shocked, Soyeon questions why she mentioned skinship in such panic. Soyeon admits that closeness is a natural part of dating.
She pauses in silence, her mind drifting to Junsu's past. She wonders what Junsu and the manager actually did together.
She imagines a happy, laughing couple sharing a romantic moment.
A romantic galaxy backdrop reflects her deep and growing confusion. Soyeon answers a class question while feeling her thoughts are useless. She wonders why she even cares what Junsu did before.
She laments that her romantic thoughts are not helping her study.
Walking outside, Jinsu walks beside a very distracted Soyeon.
Jinsu suggests going to a study cafe for more point.
A dazed expression remains on Soyeon's face as she walks. A sudden, large hand reaches out and covers her eyes.
Junsu's hand blocks her vision while he calls her name.
He leans in closely as his hand stays on her face. A dull thud sounds as he warns she almost hit something. Holding her head, she groans while he asks what she's doing. He teases her to look ahead or her head will worsen. He notes that she has been in a daze all day. Soyeon stares at him with a silent and thoughtful expression. She closes her eyes tightly, preparing to ask something important. Soyeon asks how far his relationship with his girlfriend progressed. Walking ahead, Junsu notes she asks the strangest things lately. Soyeon stares back at him with an intensely curious expression.
A brief flashback shows her asking about his romantic progress.
She stares ahead, stunned by the question she just asked. In a dark void, she regrets her outdated speech slick. She looks at Junsu, her face flushed with extreme embarrassment.
A sudden, firm step sounds as Junsu stops mocking.
Junsu leans down, bringing his face very close to hers.
He asks why she is so curious about his progress. Soyeon's eyes widen as she looks up at him.
Junsu gazes back with an intense and serious expression.
He asks if his past relationship is truly bothering her. Soyeon's face turns red as she begins to sweat nervously.
Laughing, she claims she was checking his past study habits.
Junsu remains silent, watching her with a very serious look. He turns away and continues walking while she follows him.
Nodding, she tells him she knew he didn't play around.
Junsu stops walking and looks back over his shoulder. He turns his head back forward and continues his path. Soyeon stops, her eyes fixed on his retreating figure.
She admits that her thoughts have nothing to do with studying.
Junsu suggests focusing on midterms rather than private lives, but Soyeon insists it might be relevant.
She turns away, blushing slightly as she contemplates his blunt advice.
A sudden tight clench sounds as Junsu admits that his words are correct.
Soyeon reflects on the overwhelming exam scope and the teacher's warning about difficult math questions.
Junsu tells her there's no time for distractions because he fears his GPA slipping.
Soyeon remains silent, her face a mask of blank and troubled confusion.
He asks if she is okay with postponing their arcade visit until after the exams.
Junsu looks back at her with a serious and unwavering expression.
A sudden, loud shout sounds as an angry Chibi Soyeon yells while passing a bakery.
She closes her eyes and prepares to explain her primary goals for the evening.
Junsu offers to lend her his reference books for Korean and English as they walk.
Cherry blossoms fall gracefully around the school building under a clear, sunny sky.
Inside a room, Jiwoo notes that the blossoms are already in full bloom.
Couples hold hands outside while a notice explains that the school grounds are open to visitors.
Jiwoo observes students taking romantic photos while reflecting on the flower language of cherry blossoms.
A sudden, tired sigh sounds as Soyeon studies with dark circles under her eyes.
Jiwoo comments on her hard work while mentioning the daunting scope of the English exam. A quick, refreshing gulp sounds as Jiwoo claims the exam range does not affect her.
Soyeon asks if she has forgotten the promise she made to their homeroom teacher. A memory surfaces of a warning that her parents would be called for poor scores.
Jiwoo's expression shifts to sudden wide-eyed realization of her dire academic situation.
A sudden loud wail sounds as Jiwoo panics about the difficulty of studying common subjects.
Soyeon reassures her that they still have 2 weeks and 50 points are achievable.
Her eyes widen as she suddenly comes up with a helpful new idea.
Jiwoo is delighted by the prospect of a special English lecture from the top student.
Soyeon explains that her own house is unavailable due to visiting parents.
Jiwoo suggests a cafe but worries it will be too noisy during the weekend.
A sudden, bright realization sounds as Soyeon comes up with another plan.
The black-haired student asks if they truly want to study at his house.
Jiwoo happily packs her bag while the boy looks on with a surprised expression.
He pauses, his mind suddenly focusing on a detail he had previously ignored.
He realizes that while Soyeon visits often, this is the first time another girl will. A quick, curious glance sounds as he looks at Jiwoo from the sack.
Jiwoo finds a pen and excitedly confirms that she is coming over.
A mental diagram shows his childhood friend and a new girl equal a total mystery.
The black-haired boy remains silent as his mind drifts into awkward plot.
He feels like he is trapped in an introverted nightmare during this social encounter.
Holding his head in despair, he listens as Jiwoo suggests just going to a cafe.
A sudden, frantic shout sounds as he insists that his house is perfectly fine.
A sudden, rhythmic tap sounds as he hides under a table to message a friend.
He tucked his phone back into his pocket after sending a quick request.
Junsu sits quietly at his desk while focusing intently on his own schoolwork.
A sudden, sharp sound echoes as he turns his attention towards something new.
A message on his phone from Lee Soo-yeon simply asks for urgent help.
Junsu looks at the screen with a confused and curious expression.
An intercom screen shows Jiwoo waving and identifying herself as Soo-yeon's friend. A sudden, sharp click sounds as the door handle is turned from the outside. The door opens as Jiwoo waves, with Soyeon and Junsu standing right behind her.
The group enters the house while Soo-hyun looks on from the doorway.
Drinks sit on the table as Soyeon prepares to check their vocabulary in 30 minutes.
The black-haired boy wonders why the cat is sleeping in the living room. He stands in the room looking down at the sleeping cat.
He crouches down and takes silent photos of it with his phone.
He looks at a clear photo of the sleeping feline on his screen. The cat remains in a deep and peaceful sleep on the couch.
The brown-haired girl is also shown sleeping soundly on the floor.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as he covers his mouth in surprise. He compares their similar hair color and sleeping poses on his phone.
He looks down at his phone with a quiet and thoughtful expression.
A sudden, soft rustle sounds as he reaches out to the cat. He gently drapes a soft blanket over the sleeping brown-haired girl. She groans softly while his fingers brush against her cheek. He wonders if she might swallow a bug because her mouth is open. A sudden, gentle rustle sounds as he touches her face softly.
A soft, amused chuckle sounds as he smiles while watching her sleep.
He feels flustered and questions why he is smiling so suspiciously.
The school building stands tall and bright under the clear morning sky.
A soft, quiet thud sounds as cherry blossoms fall on the grass.
The black-haired girl sits at her desk looking completely exhausted. A sudden, loud slap sounds as she hits her own cheeks hard.
She puts on a determined face and prepares for her exam.
Looking at her back, she seems ready to face the challenge.
A quick, smooth scratch sounds as she marks her exam answer sheet.
A sign on the gate identifies the Namyeon High School grounds.
The modern school building is shown from a wide and bright angle.
She asks her classmates not to speak to her about the exam.
Junsu continues to study diligently and quietly at his classroom desk. He looks frustrated after realizing he misread a section of the test.
Jiwoo sits with a pen in her mouth, looking quite bored.
Close-up on Soyeon's eyes reveals her severe and deep exhaustion.
She plans to sleep at home before studying all night again.
She reflects that she has made no visible mistakes so far.
A sudden quick whoosh sounds as her long hair blows around.
She stands tall and determined despite her obvious and total exhaustion.
She closes her eyes and stands still for a quiet moment.
A sudden weak groan sounds as her friends catch her from falling.
Jiwoo asks about her sleep while Soyeon admits to pulling all-nighters.
Jiwoo warns her that her lifestyle will ruin her health eventually.
Junsu appears completely calm and unaffected by the stressful exam period. He turns his back and begins walking away from Yubbers.
Soyeon watches him leave with a very focused and intense expression.
She vows to monitor him closely during the next mock exams.
A sign on the door identifies the room as Classroom 3-5. A message on the chalkboard announces a big cleanup task tomorrow.
She sits at her desk looking like a pale, exhausted shadow.
She feels burned out while classmates discuss their difficult math exam. She wonders if her habit of getting nervous has finally decreased.
A sudden fast tap sounds as someone runs past the door.
Jiwoo enters the classroom with her bag and a bright smile. Soyeon asks about the exam while Jiwoo credits her success to Soyeon. The black-haired girl smiles, expressing relief at her hard work and suggesting they go play.
The brown-haired girl is surprised when Soyeon mentions needing to sleep and study at home. The girl with the ponytail looks thoughtful, acknowledging that her friend has seemed tired lately.
She accepts that the arcade plans are canceled, noting that her friend's health is the priority.
The black-haired girl stands in silence, looking thoughtful as the background fades out.
She reflects on the busy exam schedule next month and realizes today is her only chance.
A sudden, loud thud sounds as Soyeon jumps up and shouts her agreement.
She turns around with a bright, wide smile and a playful glint in her eyes.
In the hallway, the boy with glasses asks about their sudden and unexpected change of plans.
The black-haired girl tells him to look forward to what she has in store for them.
The girl with the ponytail mentions she has prepared a full schedule of activities today.
Blushing with excitement, the black-haired girl laughs and agrees that it will be a lot of fun.
The boy with glasses walks away while carrying his heavy backpack down the brightly lit hallway.
He continues walking through the school corridor, seen from behind as he heads toward the exit.
A sudden rhythmic buzz sounds as the black-haired boy's phone vibrates on the classroom desk.
Answering the call, he asks why the person on the other end is checking on him.
A phone screen shows photos of delicious food while chibi versions of the girls can't. Sitting in the restaurant, the brown-haired girl says she will post the food photos online.
A sudden rhythmic clatter sounds as the two friends enjoy a massive feast of various dishes.
Chewing her food, the black-haired girl mentions that she has always had a very large appetite.
The girl with the ponytail offers to pay and wonders where all the calories are going. A sudden sharp poke sounds as a fork stabs into a fresh piece of salmon salad. Chewing happily, the black-haired girl asks about the calorie count as her friend watches her eat.
The brown-haired girl gives a smug look and explains her plan to burn off the calories.
A photo strip shows the two girls making various cute and funny poses in a booth.
A sudden loud whoosh sounds as the brown-haired girl playfully grabs her friend to keep going.
Pulling her friend along, she announces that she has another special location already picked out.
Holding a sweet snack, the black-haired girl wonders if her friend possesses infinite and unending stamina.
A large sign on the building identifies the location as the Good Game Land Arcade Center.
Inside the arcade, the brown-haired girl raises her arms in triumph while her friend watches.
She expresses her excitement for being back after a month while her friend asks for lessons.
Laughing, the brown-haired girl tells her friend to leave the rhythm game instructions to the expert.
A sudden weak stagger sounds as the black-haired girl's feet slip slightly on the pavement.
A sudden dizzy spin sounds as the black-haired girl looks around with a dazed expression.
The two girls enter the arcade while the boy with glasses is seen nearby in profile.
Close-up on the ear and side profile of the boy wearing glasses as he looks away.
He wears a very serious and focused expression while holding a black pen in his hand.
Sitting in the cafe, he looks out the window at the brightly lit arcade across the street.
The view from the window shows the signs for Café Nice and the arcade nearby.
The black-haired boy complains that he expected to rest on the day the school exams ended. A sudden loud boom sounds as the black-haired boy insists on studying despite the noisy music.
The boy with glasses complains about the loud rhythm game section on the building's second floor.
He looks toward the window with a neutral expression as he focuses on his friend's words.
Looking through the glass, he watches the two girls at the rhythm game machine across the street.
Inside the arcade, the black-haired girl smiles brightly while preparing to play the next game. A sudden, loud stomp sounds as a pair of sneakers hits the rhythm game's dance pads.
A sudden, bright chime sounds as the arcade screen displays a perfect and highest-tier score.
Trembling with shock, the black-haired girl admits that her friend's feet were moving too fast.
The brown-haired girl offers to play together, and her friend excitedly agrees to the challenge.
The brown-haired girl explains the rhythm game rules, pointing at the arrows on the screen for her friend. The black-haired girl looks at the screen with a confused and curious expression about the concept of rhythm.
She prepares herself as the game screen displays a bright and bold start signal to begin the song.
A sudden heavy stomp sounds as she presses her shoe firmly down on one of the dance panels.
The screen flashes a successful rating while showing a blurry crowd of people in the game's background video.
She looks up with a blank and uncertain expression, questioning if she is actually performing well so far.
Concentrating on the pattern, she continues to jump across the colorful pods to keep up with the game. She asks her friend if a higher rating indicates that she is starting to improve her timing.
A sudden, loud stomp sounds as she hits the pad perfectly to earn a high-tier score rating.
Looking completely surprised, the black-haired girl reacts with shock at seeing the word perfect appear on the screen.
She realizes that matching the patterns is surprisingly fun, despite her total lack of a musical rhythm.
The girl with the ponytail praises her friend's natural talent and suggests they try playing the next song together.
Feeling more confident, Soyeon excitedly agrees to try a much more difficult and challenging level.
The music starts again with various music notes appearing on the screen for the second round of play.
The black-haired girl focuses intently on the center arrow as it slowly approaches the target area.
She notes that the next sequence requires her to step on 2 different pads at the same time. Maintaining her focus, she prepares to step on the right panel to complete the next move. She executes the move by landing her foot firmly on the blue arrow pod at the correct moment.
A sudden, dizzy spin sounds as her vision begins to warp and blur from extreme physical exhaustion.
She misses the next note and looks on in total confusion at the blurry arcade screen. Her eyes go blank from total fatigue as she wonders why her performance is suddenly dropping so fast.
Jiwoo shouts in a panic as Soyeon admits her legs have lost all their strength and begins falling.
A caption explains that Soyeon has not slept for several days while studying for her midterm exams.
The brown-haired girl looks annoyed while answering a sudden call on her vibrating phone.
She looks at the caller ID for Lee Soo-hyun with a very suspicious and questioning expression. She tells him she is currently busy, while Junsu tells her to stop Soyeon from playing games immediately.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as someone approaches the 2 girls from behind in the arcade.
Jiwoo asks the boy why he is there and why he is in possession of Junsu's gum.
Dazed, Soyeon murmurs that the world is spinning while her friend tries to support her mate.
A hand reaches out to steady the black-haired girl before she can fall over onto the floor.
Junsu places a hand on her shoulder, having arrived just in time to prevent her from collapsing.
He asks the girl with the ponytail why she brought an exhausted person to such a loud place.
Jiwoo looks flustered and admits her mistake while questioning how he managed to find them so easily.
She notes that she doesn't even have his phone number to have called him for help.
Across the arcade, Junsu is shown watching them through the window of the cafe across the street.
Junsu waves his hands in denial, claiming he was also used in this strange and chaotic situation.
Jiwoo looks at him with suspicion as Soyeon begins to lose consciousness from her extreme and total fatigue.
He tells the girl with the ponytail to hand over her friend's heavy backpack so he can help.
A sudden, firm tug sounds as he takes the bag, explaining he only spotted them by pure chance.
Carrying her, Junsu asks for her phone so he can contact her driver to come and get her.
Soyeon leans into him, weakly asking for someone to help support her drooping and tired head.
Junsu looks down at her with a calm and serious expression while she rests against him.
He reaches out to gently support the back of her head as she begins to drift off.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Soyeon reacts with total confusion to her current surroundings.
A sudden, firm grip sounds as he places his arms securely around her to lift her up properly.
He asks if she is comfortable now while holding her in a firm and steady princess carry.
Looking completely stunned, the brown-haired girl watches the unexpected scene with wide and shocked eyes.
Blushing deeply, Soyeon admits she feels even more dizzy and asks him to put her down.
A sudden, light tap sounds as they move, while Soyeon wonders why Junsu would appear in her dream.
She walks away into the distance while reflecting on how realistic the physical touch felt in her exhausted state.
Jiwoo screams in terror as Soyeon collapses from sheer exhaustion.
The scene transitions to the sunlit exterior of Cafe Nice Day across the street.
Inside the cafe, Junsu scolds the girls for playing despite their extreme fatigue.
Feeling completely dazed, Soyeon thinks about going home to sleep immediately. Junsu questions if she plans to keep her habit of staying up during exams.
He warns that while she can manage internal exams for now, things will change.
He emphasizes that the major college entrance exam is a long-distance race.
He explains she cannot afford to be exhausted on the actual big exam day.
Looking downcast, Soyeon quietly admits that she already knows all of that.
She thinks he wouldn't understand her anxiety and grips her skirt tightly.
She asks why he is studying today, and he says it is his daily hada. A close-up reveals a new black piercing on Junsu's ear.
Soyeon stares at his ear while experiencing a strange feeling of déjà vu.
Junsu explains his study schedule while focused intently on his work.
A close-up shows a hand reaching out towards someone's head.
In her dazed state, Soyeon reaches out to touch Junsu's ear. A sudden soft touch sounds as she gently pokes his new piercing.
Their 2 friends watch the scene with wide, shocked expressions.
Soyeon looks dazed while her finger remains near Junsu's ear.
Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes what she is doing.
A sudden light tremble sounds as her hand remains near his ear in hesitation.
A rhythmic throb sounds as the skin around the piercing looks red.
She begins to stammer an excuse while looking completely flustered. She attempts to pull her hand away from his ear.
A sudden, firm grab sounds as Junsu catches her by the wrist.
He looks at her with a calm expression while holding her hand. She nervously explains that she noticed a piercing she had not seen before.
Junsu stares at her intently while maintaining his grip on her wrist.
A close-up shows him holding her wrist tightly as she sweats nervously. A sudden quick whoosh sounds as he releases her, calling it a hobby.
He tells her it is not healed yet and warns her not to touch her.
She acknowledges his hobby while thinking about how piercings are fashion.
Apologizing, she admits her hand moved on its own because she was sleepy.
Blushing deeply, she thinks about how incredibly embarrassing the situation is. Jiwoo asks about her driver while Soyeon prepares to make the call.
The black-haired boy remarks on exam madness while Jiwoo notes their friend's forgetfulness.
Back in the classroom, Soyeon sighs deeply after the exams are over. She reflects on how the probability and statistics exam was the most difficult.
She looks down at the test results sitting on her desk.
A sudden bright flash sounds as she sees her perfect score of 100.
A sudden quick rustle sounds as she confirms she made no mistakes.
A sudden light tap sounds as she covers her eyes in relief.
Sitting in a cafe, Junsu looks at a small slip of paper.
A sudden rhythmic scribble sounds as Junsu continues his intense studying.
A caption notes his results are good as Jiwoo watches him silently. The scene shifts to the exterior of a building labeled Café Tourmaline.
The black-haired boy complains about his English score while hoping for more plights.
Junsu scolds him while a caption notes Soyeon's grumpiness despite her perfect scores. Soyeon notices Junsu is studying even more than usual lately. She feels bothered, suspecting he will get perfect scores on upcoming exams.
The black-haired girl sits at a study desk, her attention fixed on her floral foam. She recalls the boy with glasses offering to be her study motivation partner whenever she feels like quitting.
Reflecting on his offer, she realizes she has never actually reached out to him for support. She imagines a cycle of messages that could potentially keep the studious boy away from his books.
A sudden bright flash sounds as she realizes that messaging him is a perfect way to interrupt his studying.
A sudden rhythmic tap sounds as she types a message confessing her intense hatred for studying.
At the cafe, the group sits together while the girls remain focused on their phones instead of studying.
Across the table, the boy with glasses glances down at his phone with a neutral, calm expression.
A sudden low vibrate sounds as the girl notices a notification appearing on her phone screen.
She looks at the screen with an expectant expression, hoping for a lengthy and distracting conversation. The boy's response is a single, short cheer of encouragement, leaving her feeling completely underwhelmed.
She stares at the phone in disbelief, questioning if that brief message was really the end of it. She is annoyed that his brief sympathy was just a trap to get back to his studies immediately.
A sudden quick rustle sounds as she continues to glare at her phone while the group studies.
The boy remains focused on his own device, seemingly unaware of her growing frustration.
He maintains his serious expression while checking his phone one last time before returning to his work.
Jiwoo notices the silent exchange and remarks on how they both seem glued to their phones.
Looking suspicious, the girl with the ponytail leans in to see what is happening on the phone.
She continues to watch her friend closely, sensing that something unusual is going on between the two.
She is shocked to discover the secret messaging and wonders why they aren't talking to everyone else.
The black-haired boy suggests they all talk together, while Jinsu wonders if they are making the others uncomfortable.
Feeling cornered, Soyeon panics and wonders how to resolve the awkward situation they have created.
Junsu reminds her that she was the one who initiated the conversation in the first place. A close-up shows her eyes narrowing as she stares him down with a fierce and competitive look.
A close-up reveals him staring back with equal intensity, refusing to be the first to look away. He breaks the silence to ask why she is staring at him so intently and strangely.
Flustered, she stammers an excuse while trying to maintain her composure during their unexpected staring contest. She tells herself that looking away would mean defeat, showing her competitive nature even in silly games.
He continues to watch her with a calm and steady gaze, seemingly unaffected by her intense pressure. She admits defeat with a frustrated sigh while their friend questions why they are suddenly competing. Jiwoo finds the idea of a steering contest surprisingly fun and decides to join in.
She challenges the black-haired boy to a match, catching him completely off guard by the sudden request.
With a determined and sparkly expression, she prepares to win the challenge against her surprised friend. He asks if the game has already started while struggling to keep his eyes focused on her.
A sudden, sharp focus sounds as Jiwoo stares directly into his eyes with total and unwavering concentration.
He immediately looks down and admits defeat with a caption noting his habit of avoiding eye contact.
Jiwoo scolds him for looking away so quickly, jokingly asking if he treats her like a scary bully. She wonders if her intimidating appearance is the reason she always wins these games and feels slightly guilty.
As the group attempts to restart their study session, Junsu asks why everyone is acting so strangely today. The black-haired boy attempts the challenge again, focusing his gaze intently on the girl sitting across from him.
She stares back with a neutral expression, unaware of the internal struggle her friend is currently experiencing.
He realizes that he has never truly looked into someone's eyes for this long before in his life.
A close-up reveals his thoughts as he notices how beautiful her brown eyes look in the cafe light. A sudden, hot steam sounds as his face turns bright red from the overwhelming intensity of the moment. The cafe worker arrives with a plate of pancakes, providing a welcome distraction for the flustered group.
Everyone reacts with excitement at the beautiful presentation, and Jiwoo immediately prepares to take a photo.
A close-up shows the boy still blushing deeply as he tries to recover from the embarrassing staring contest. A sudden quick whoosh sounds as he turns away, wondering why he finds it so hard to look.
Outside the cafe, the group enjoys their meal while So-yeon reflects on her hunger and the day's events.
The scene transitions to the sunlit school exterior, where white tents are set up for an upcoming festival.
An announcement over the intercom instructs everyone to gather in their classrooms after lunch.
Jiwoo mentions that the school field will undergo artificial turf construction next semester.
Jiwoo points out the window, frustrated that third-year students are excluded from the plan.
The black-haired boy laughs, noting third-year students have no such freedom for fun.
Junsu, the boy with glasses, admits he never liked those outdoor events anyway.
A new announcement signals the start of the second-year 500-meter relay race.
Jiwoo proudly claims that she is the best when it comes to relay racing.
The black-haired boy looks at his friends with a neutral, slightly skeptical expression.
A flashback shows Jiwoo winking after a race while a caption requests her exclusion.
Realization dawns on Junsu as he recalls that girl from his past memory.
So-yeon suddenly gasps as an old memory from the past hits her.
So-yeon admits that the mention of the sports meet brings back bad memories.
Looking troubled, So-yeon reveals that she has a very shameful past experience.
Jiwoo asks if she came in last, but So-yeon denies that being the problem.
So-yeon recalls the embarrassment of her class dressing her in a squirrel onesie.
The group is silent as Junsu silently thinks she probably looked extremely cute.
He continues to stare at her with a calm and completely unreadable expression.
So-yeon glances toward the side while her friend watches her closely from behind.
She looks completely frozen as she struggles to process her own embarrassing thoughts.
Junsi watches her intently, his expression remaining perfectly steady and focused on her. So-yeon panics, noting she just admitted her shameful past, and he confirms he heard.
She remains silent, feeling the weight of her own embarrassing confession about the onesie.
The scene transitions to the classroom chalkboard where a self-study session has been assigned.
So-yeon studies diligently while Jiwoo sleeps peacefully on her desk nearby. An announcement for the second-year random mission race interrupts the quiet classroom atmosphere.
Junsu looks down thoughtfully while thinking to himself that he really wants to see.
The intercom calls for all participating students to gather in the center of the field.
So-yeon stares blankly at her notebook, lost in her own complicated and distracted thoughts.
In a flashback, a young So-yeon looks grumpy while wearing a squirrel onesie.
A young Jinsu wearing a sports headband studies a notebook during a break.
A sudden, firm grip sounds as a small hand bunches up the onesie fabric tightly. The young girl in the onesie stands near the boy as he continues studying.
A flashback reveals a house where a parent asks if she ranked first again. Her father lifts her up while her mother captures the proud moment on camera.
Her parents embrace her warmly, telling So-yeon she is their greatest pride and joy.
Little So-yeon giggles with joy as her father nuzzles her cheek playfully.
A school report card reveals a perfect record with scores of 100%. So-yeon identifies herself as the student who knows her own academic strengths very well. She overhears classmates complaining about scores while they note her constant perfect grades.
She wonders what could possibly be so difficult about getting all the answers right.
She thinks that everyone loves her as long as she maintains her perfect scores.
A close-up shows her consistent top-tier grades in academic achievements across all subjects.
The scene shifts to the imposing exterior gate of Yein Girls Middle School.
Middle school So-yeon looks troubled, sensing that something is not quite right.
She wonders how she missed a number, noting she has a very fatal weakness.
She recalls suffering from nervous and lack of sleep before important school exams. She notes that once tension starts, she inevitably makes mistakes at the very end.
She admits middle school was fine because she stayed first despite her minor errors.
Bright light from a computer monitor illuminates the room in a hazy white glow.
A hand rests on a mouse while the screen displays a game interviews.
So-yeon stares at the screen, crushed by her elite high school rejection.
During her middle school interview, she confidently presents her detailed poetic analysis.
An off-screen examiner questions if her interpretation of the subject is too specific.
3 silent examiners watch her from across their professional-looking desks. She forces a smile while panicking internally about how to save her answer. The examiner corrects her interpretation, creating a heavy and stifling atmosphere. She blankly forgets her own words and admits she failed the interview.
Her parents comfort her, noting the school's high difficulty and her great effort.
Despite knowing the outcome, the humiliation of failing feels completely overwhelming.
She marks Namyeon High School as her top choice for general enrollment.
Following her elite school rejection, she settles for a general high school.
The sun shines over the main entrance of Namyeon High School.
A sudden, loud bang sounds as she storms out of her classroom.
She is furious that despite her high scores, she isn't ranked first.
A rhythmic, steady thud sounds as she marches to find her rival.
She is determined to see the face of the top-ranked student. A sudden, soft thud sounds as she walks directly into someone's chest.
She winces while apologizing for her lack of attention in the hallway.
Students gossip about a popular boy while a girl checks her phone nearby.
She learns the top student has dyed hair and multiple piercings.
A teacher scolds students for their appearance while So-yeon watches carefully.
The brown-haired boy wipes his glasses while standing near the window.
A soft, rhythmic rustle sounds as her friend points out the boy. He turns toward them, wondering if he is the center of attention.
A sudden quick sounds as he puts his glasses back on.
A sudden hurried scuttle sounds as she stares at him in disbelief.
She remains frozen, struggling to reconcile his appearance with his academic rank. She watches him silently as he prepares to leave the school hallway.
He walks away with his backpack, seemingly indifferent to the surrounding stares. Her parents watch her with expressions of confused and silent concern.
A heavy silence fills the room as they wait for her reaction. They joyfully celebrate her second-place rank, telling her they are proud.
She grits her teeth, finding her failure to be first utterly unacceptable.
A sudden tight squeeze sounds as she reflects on her perceived talent. She focuses intently on the back of the boy who took her spot.
A report card displays top scores and a first-place school ranking.
When she eventually regains her rank, her classmates react with total awe. Friends crowd around her desk to admire her perfect academic record. She stares at her grades, wondering why she still compares herself.
In a flashback, she stands in her onesie, wishing for recognition. She approaches the boy who is busy studying during the sports meet.
She asks for him, noting she isn't the mission's intended target.
She waits awkwardly as a new announcement begins over the school intercom.
The intercom instructs participants that they must hold hands to finish.
He brushes off his friend's jokes while preparing to join the race.
He calmly notes that he meets the specific criteria for the mission.
A sudden light swipe sounds as he offers her his hand.
She looks at him, realizing he knew his own rank all along.
He leads her onto the track while a friend asks if they're dating. Off-screen students gossip about the boy, claiming they saw his scary girlfriend recently and that he will be in serious trouble if he gets caught.
Soyeon is shocked that he has a girlfriend and realizes he is talking loudly on purpose, wondering how the situation became so complicated.
In a dreamlike scenario, she imagines herself proudly bragging about her top rank while a caption notes how things could have been without him.
The pair walks along the track while Soyeon carries a red baton. A close-up shows their fingers interlaced as they walk together. Soyeon looks away with a deep blush, feeling the awkwardness. Kim Jun-soo maintains a calm expression as he leads the May.
He looks down silently, staring at the ground with a neutral expression.
Their hands remain joined as they move together under the sunlight.
A sudden, firm grip sounds as they hold hands more tightly. Soyeon appears flustered, her face glowing with a pink blush. Narration describes the sensation of holding Kim Jun-soo's hand for the first time. The camera focuses on the intimate contact of their hands. Soyeon's hair flows as she looks toward the side, lost. A sudden tight squeeze sounds as she grips the red baton.
Back in the present, Kim Jun-soo remains silent as they wait.
The teacher confirms his identity as Kim Jun-soo and mentions he is new this year before telling them they can leave.
Soyeon panics about his scary girlfriend, imagining the girl kicking a door and dragging her to the rooftop as she regrets getting involved. Kim Jun-soo acknowledges the teacher's dismissal with a quiet and brief response.
He remains silent for a moment, his thoughts hidden from view.
As they walk away, Kim Jun-soo offers a very quiet apology.
He looks at her with a confused and questioning expression.
He asks her what she means, appearing puzzled by her behavior.
Soyeon keeps her back turned while apologizing for holding his hand without permission since he has a girlfriend. He notes it was just part of the rules, but she shouts a loud apology and bows deeply.
She runs away, yelling for him to tell his girlfriend she is sorry while a teacher calls for her to stay.
A close-up shows Kim Jun-soo watching her depart in a hurry.
He remains standing alone, staring blankly in the direction she ran.
A hand rests near a desk in a bright, hazy room.
A flashback reveals younger Soyeon laughing happily while narration notes he did not recognize her on that day.
Middle school Soyeon looks serious, thinking that this particular memory clearly means nothing to him.
Narrative text states that to her, it is one of the memories she wants to forget most.
She calls him a jerk while blushing with frustration in the classroom. A sudden rhythmic tap sounds as she works at her desk. A smartphone screen displays a chat where Kim Jun-soo asks if she is going to the study cafe after school.
Soyeon stares out the classroom window with a distracted and melancholic expression.
Chat history shows her complaining about studying and him teasing her for using the app while sitting right in front of him.
She tells him to go alone, wondering how they could possibly ever be just friends.
Kim Jun-soo watches her from across the classroom with a calm gaze.
A sudden rhythmic tap sounds as she types out her blunt response. A sudden firm grip sounds as she holds her phone tightly.
Kim Jun-soo turns his gaze toward the window, lost in thought. A sudden rhythmic tap sounds as she hides her phone under the desk.
He remains quiet, staring out at the grounds from his seat. Sunlight illuminates the school building exterior, creating a peaceful atmosphere. A sudden, firm grip sounds as hands come together in a hold.
Catching him in the hallway, Soyeon tells Kim Jun-soo not to go.
A sudden, firm grip sounds as she stops him in the hallway. The sun shines brightly over the school, signaling the afternoon shift.
Holding a blue soda can, Soyeon begins to address him hesitantly.
On a school bench, the ponytail girl sips a drink while the black-haired boy sits beside her.
She pauses with her soda, letting out a thoughtful hum as she considers the situation.
She notes that Soyeon has started acting quite strange lately, which is causing her concern.
The black-haired boy agrees, noting that something is definitely different about their friend's recent behavior. Kim Jun-soo asks So-yeon to let go of his hand while she insists he will just go study.
The ponytail girl and the boy watch as So-yeon continues holding Kim Jun-soo's hand near a vending machine.
The scene shifts to the school's summer greenery as someone complains that it is too hot for sushi.
A student scrolls through a study app, wondering if the upcoming June mock exam is causing the stress.
The ponytail girl vents about So-yeon clinging to Kim Jun-soo and wonders if she is being ignored by them.
She notes So-yeon just hurried back to class, mentioning her friend's current intense and sensitive state of mind.
She describes how So-yeon's current aura makes her seem incredibly touchy while she focuses entirely on her studies.
The ponytail girl is convinced that anyone who bothers So-yeon right now is in for serious trouble.
The black-haired boy remains thoughtful, letting out a quiet hum as he processes her friend's observations.
He wonders if the June mock exam is the reason for her mood, while the girl asks for clarification. He explains that So-yeon always becomes highly sensitive whenever she faces an important academic testing period.
He notes her parents are very famous professors, suggesting that her academic pressure is significant.
The ponytail girl realizes that must be why she studies so hard, and he agrees with her theory.
She argues that parents shouldn't put such expectations on children, as they are separate people with separate lives.
He notes her parents are actually very kind and supportive, and they have always been nice to him.
She reflects that even kindness can become a burden for a child who feels the need to succeed.
She turns her attention back to the boy sitting nearby, who remains focused on his own device.
Kim Jun-soo notes that there is no better motivation for studying than the simple drive to do well.
The ponytail girl gets annoyed at his clinical take on the conversation, but he stands by his observation.
Kim Jun-soo's phone vibrates as the girl notes he wouldn't understand since he actually enjoys his studies.
A notification from Yang So-yeon appears on his screen, asking him to walk home together after school. A sudden digital chime sounds as she sends a follow-up sticker of a bunny holding a knife. He jokingly remarks that he will be killed if he refuses her invitation, expressing a newfound sense of fear.
He stares down at his phone screen, silently contemplating the blunt and threatening nature of her message. From his perspective, he looks at the chat while So-yeon waits for him at the classroom door. So-yeon thinks about how Kim Jun-soo is always studying or using a vocabulary app even while walking. She concludes that she simply needs to talk to him to manage the distance between their academic ranks.
She reflects that despite her past efforts to interfere with him, she cannot truly control Kim Jun-soo's success.
She watches Kim Jun-soo from behind, certain that he will inevitably achieve a perfect score on exams.
She holds her notes, feeling that he has already finished the race while she is still struggling.
She imagines them on a racetrack where he occupies the top spot and she is stuck behind.
Determined to catch up, she thinks her only option is to drag him down from his high position. A long-haired girl suddenly grabs So-yeon's shoulders from behind, loudly calling out her name in the classroom.
The girl excitedly suggests that they go downtown together to have dinner and spend time after school.
So-yeon apologetically declines the offer, explaining she has plans with someone else today, but promises next time.
Her friends watch her leave with suspicious and curious expressions, wondering about her recent change in social habits.
The long-haired girl sighs, noting that So-yeon is once again choosing to spend her time with Kim Jun-soo.
So-yeon looks back at her friend with a confused and wide-eyed expression, questioning the sudden, intense scrutiny. Her friend demands the truth about her relationship, sensing that there is more going on than So-yeon admits. She aggressively asks when the two of them are finally going to start dating, catching So-yeon off guard. She insists they are already basically a couple, or at least in a fling, making So-yeon very flustered.
So-yeon genuinely asks what a fling is, leading her friend to give up on the conversation in frustration. Her other friend notes that So-yeon does not even walk home with them anymore, feeling a bit disappointed.
They demand to be the first to know if anything happens with Kim Jun-soo, despite So-yeon's loud denials.
The long-haired friend is certain that Kim Jun-soo is experienced and that something will definitely happen soon.
So-yeon stands up as her phone notifies her that he is currently waiting right in front of class. As So-yeon leaves the classroom, her friend watches with suspicion. Inside the classroom, her friends wonder about her recent behavior. So-yeon stops walking, looking surprised as she addresses someone nearby. Kim Jun-soo stands before her, ready for their planned departure.
So-yeon appears skeptical as she questions the timing of his request. He looks at her calmly while suggesting they go immediately.
Traffic moves steadily through the city as they travel together. An awkward silence fills the car while they sit together. So-yeon whispers into her phone about their sudden home visit.
She mentions her father's absence while he stares out the window.
A sudden, loud shout erupts from the phone, startling him. At a modern house, a voice explains a sunworton.
So-yeon's mother smiles happily while finishing a call at home.
She informs her husband about a guest and he appears curious.
She playfully reveals that their daughter is bringing a boy home.
Stunned, the father stops on the stairs as his glasses crack. The car arrives and So-yeon looks incredibly nervous inside. Her mother greets Kim Jun-soo warmly as he introduces himself.
So-yeon stands paralyzed with shock as her mother welcomes him.
She worries about him studying elsewhere if she flees now.
Kim Jun-soo bows politely while she internally labels him a hypocrite.
He maintains a calm and respectful demeanor during the introduction.
The father watches suspiciously from around a corner in the house.
He tells them to enter, his expression hidden and guarded.
The mother laughs cheerfully while leading them into the room.
Staring intensely, the father suddenly demands that he marry his daughter.
Kim Jun-soo stares back with a completely blank and confused expression.
The mother corrects her husband's awkward outburst while everyone sits.
The father clears his throat and delivers the expected protective rejection.
So-yeon stands up and yells in frustration at her father's behavior.
He admits he was just following his wife's prior suggestion.
The mother asks for clarification on their current relationship status.
Blushing deeply, So-yeon offers a vague and hesitant explanation.
The mother confirms their friendship as they sit in the room.
She notes So-yeon's past history of attending all-female schools.
Kim Jun-soo listens politely while So-yeon begs for silence.
So-yeon introduces her parents, attempting to normalize the tense situation.
She details her parents' prestigious literary and academic careers. Kim Jun-soo concludes that they are a perfect liberal arts family. So-yeon leaves to change clothes, warning them to stay quiet. She glares back suspiciously while her mother smiles innocently.
A heavy silence remains in the room after she departs.
The mother asks how the two of them first met.
Kim Jun-soo recalls their school interactions with a serious gaze.
He explains that their connection formed through their shared studies.
Shocked by the idea of study, the mother approaches excitedly.
He remembers her arcade visits before confirming her academic help.
The mother beams with pride over her daughter's natural intelligence.
She whispers that So-yeon is the top student in her department. Kim Jun-soo notes she was a former top student, and the mother agrees excitedly since he is So-yeon's friend.
The mother asks him if So-yeon took good care of her friends.
Kim Jun-soo replies that he and So-yeon are actually not in the same class.
He recalls a memory of So-yeon smiling brightly in her school uniform.
Looking at the table, he remains silent for a brief moment.
Kim Jun-soo tells her that he is currently receiving a lot of care.
The mother is delighted, mentioning their family motto of giving, while the father lets out a quiet sigh.
The mother asks him to take a look at something on the table.
Various awards and a photo of a young girl rest upon the table.
The father points out awards So-yeon won in 2nd and 4th grade.
He notes her many awards despite lack of special tutoring, while the mother reminisces and the boy is impressed.
A photo captures the joy of a young So-yeon celebrating her success. The mother explains the photo is from elementary school, and Kim Jun-soo asks to hold it.
The mother calls her cute as So-yeon appears, seemingly shocked to see them with her childhood photo.
Blushing deeply, So-yeon stares at her parents and Kim Jun-soo in absolute shock.
A sudden, loud roar erupts as So-yeon tells them to stop while the mother notes they have been caught.
She vents about the embarrassment of bringing friends over if they act this way, leaving the boys staring at the photo.
The mother insists they do it out of love, while So-yeon demands they consider her friend's feelings.
The young girl in the photo remains frozen in her happy childhood moment.
Kim Jun-soo gazes at the picture with a gentle, barely visible smile.
Twilight descends upon the modern house as the evening settles in.
From outside the car, So-yeon clears her throat to get Kim Jun-soo's attention.
She warns him of a baseless jinx about studying in their car and failing mock exams.
Kim Jun-soo stares at her silently, processing her strange and superstitious warning.
He sits in the car while she stands firmly on the sidewalk.
So-yeon wonders if her lie has been discovered as she looks at him suspiciously.
Kim Jun-soo tells her he has something to say, prompting her to ask what it is.
He signals for her to come closer, telling her to do so quickly.
She leans toward the window, arguing that he can just speak from there.
They share an intimate look as she leans closer to the car window.
Kim Jun-soo suggests it is something worth receiving as he looks directly at her. Confused, So-yeon wonders if he is referring to some kind of praise.
She asks him what he means so suddenly, but he remains silent.
He tells her to forget it and says he will see her tomorrow.
A sudden, loud vroom sounds as the car pulls away, leaving her bewildered.
She stares after the departing vehicle, questioning the meaning of his words. Traffic flows through the city streets as night begins to fall.
Kim Jun-soo asks to be dropped off at the station, offering his thanks.
He sits alone in the back seat, appearing lost in his own thoughts.
He looks down at a small notepad filled with vocabulary words.
He recalls the warmth of So-yeon's mother, laughing alongside her family.
A strange, heavy sensation rolls through him as he clutches his study guide.
His hand rests on the open notepad while the car moves steadily.
He looks forward with a neutral expression as he nears his destination.
A quick, soft top sounds as he looks out at the tall buildings.
The city apartment complexes stand tall against the dark evening sky.
Kim Jun-soo walks through the building's entrance, returning to his home.
The entrance is filled with many pairs of shoes, suggesting others are home.
His eyes reflect a sense of exhaustion and quiet contemplation.
He steps into the quiet, dimly lit hallway of his apartment.
Kim Jun-soo stares blankly, appearing deeply drained after the visit.
He returns home to his apartment, announcing his arrival quietly.
A quick, soft shuffle sounds as he removes his shoes.
He walks into the kitchen, passing a young girl's shadowed silhouette. He stops and looks toward his father standing in the hallway.
Kim Jun-soo bows respectfully as a polite greeting sounds.
A creak sounds as he moves toward his private room. He enters his bedroom, still carrying his heavy school backpack.
A thud sounds as he sets his bag on the desk. He sits down immediately to begin his nightly study routine. A rhythmic, soft knock sounds on his bedroom door.
His father asks to enter and Kim Jin-soo permits her.
A creak sounds as his father steps into the room.
His father asks if he is studying and he confirms.
The father asks how his school life has been lately.
Kim Jin-soo looks down, replying that things are quite fun.
The father notes that his sincerity seems genuine this time.
He insists Kim Jin-soo is not just using empty words. Kim Jin-soo asks how he knew, and the father mentions atmosphere.
He remains silent, processing his father's surprisingly observant remark.
He looks back and reaffirms that school is indeed enjoyable.
The father watches him with a neutral but attentive gaze.
He encourages him to continue before excusing himself from the room.
A creak sounds as the father leaves, closing the door. A sudden, quiet scuff sounds as his sister peeks inside.
He asks why she left their mother, calling her over.
A creak sounds as the young girl hesitates by the door.
A click sounds as he prepares to focus on his work.
A soft click sounds as he opens his earbud case. A tap sounds as he places an earbud in his ear.
He leans over his desk, studying intensely under the lamp.
A chalkboard marks the 3-day countdown to the mock exam.
So-yeon rests her head on her hand, looking deeply troubled.
She reminds herself that this exam is vital practice for finals. A scritch sounds as she writes with her carrot-shaped pen.
She searches for a way to manage her overwhelming nerves. She recalls Kim Jin-soo's calm presence during their shared studies.
She briefly considers asking him for advice on staying relaxed.
She quickly rejects the idea, determined to handle it alone.
She vows never to rely on his help for this.
A thrum sounds as her vision blurs from the pressure.
Her heart pounds loudly as she wonders how to cope.
She stares intensely, feeling the weight of the upcoming test.
She recalls him playing games to clear his mind earlier.
She thinks his poor grades might actually make her feel better.
A cheer sounds as she realizes he is taking first place. She demands he finish 2 more games to help her relax.
A bloop sounds as he plays while she studies nearby.
She looks away from her notes, lost in her thoughts.
Kim Jin-soo glances over at her, noticing her quiet distraction.
So-yeon stares blankly with deep, tired shadows under her eyes.
2 students sit quietly together at a long, light-colored table.
The apartment complex stands tall against the deep blue night.
A rhythmic scritch sounds as a hand writes in a workbook. Kim Jin-soo looks down at his work with a focused expression.
A quick soft tap sounds as he checks the smeg. The phone screen illuminates the dark room at 3:18 a.m.
Kim Jin-soo continues his late-night study session from his desk.
He scrolls through a long history of chat messages alone.
A quick soft shuffle sounds as he looks at his theft.
Kim Jin-soo pauses his work, appearing deep in quiet thought.
A soft, quick slide sounds as he picks up a book.
Kim Jin-soo stands in a bright, modern interior during his visit.
He mentions his moderate liking for a famous book series.
A row of mystery novels sits prominently on a bookshelf.
The mother beams with joy as he recognizes her work.
Kim Jin-soo listens politely as she shares her writing history.
A quick soft slide sounds as he holds up an essay.
She admits the personal essay wasn't as popular as her mysteries. The mother looks at him with a warm, nostalgic gaze.
She asks if it isn't wonderful to share one's life.
She describes the unique and personal appeal of an essay.
Kim Jin-soo sits at his desk, contemplating the essay book. A soft click sounds as he turns off his lamp.
A quiet, heavy scuff sounds as he walks toward bed.
A soft thud sounds as he lies down with the book. A soft rustle sounds as he flips through the pages.
The text notes that people lie even in their diaries. It suggests the author might also be lying in her book.
So-yeon sits on her bed, contemplating a promise of honesty. She huddles under her blanket, looking pensive and quiet.
A tight squeeze sounds as she clutches her phone while reflector.
The digital alarm clock shows the time is 5:34 a.m. A soft thud sounds as Kim Jin-soo wakes with his book.
He looks away with a gentle, faint smile on his face. His phone remains silent on the desk as morning arrives.
The school exterior is visible as a new day begins.
A classroom wall clock shows it is 7:07.
Kim Jin-soo sleeps at his desk with a book on his head.
A loud creak sounds as the classroom door is opened.
He wakes up and looks curiously toward the open door.
A girl in athletic wear peeks into the room cautiously.
She claims to be in the track club, arriving for practice.
Kim Jin-soo responds neutrally while holding his large study bag.
She asks if he always comes to school this early.
Her track teammates gossiped outside, urging her to get his info.
Kim Jin-soo stares at her with a completely blank expression.
He tells her to go back and inform her friends. Realizing her true motive was transparent, she feels caught. A loud creak sounds as she retreats back into the hallway.
A soft, quick tap sounds as Kim Jin-soo buries his face in a book, lamenting his lack of training.
The modern school building stands tall under the bright afternoon sun.
The teacher standing before the chalkboard announces the 80-minute duration for the first period exam.
A quick soft scritch sounds as the teacher warns that cheating will result in a 0.
A soft rhythmic scritch sounds while Kim Jin-soo focuses intently on his exam paper.
A soft, quick grunt sounds as a student carefully fills in the bubbles on their answer sheet.
So-yeon looks panicked and sweaty while taking the exam, regretting wasting time on a difficult problem.
A soft, heavy thump sounds while she realizes she must guess on the final question.
A soft, quiet ha-ha sounds as Soyeon laughs in despair, wondering what number to guess.
A rhythmic, soft scritch sounds as she decides to use her birth date for the guest.
So-young stares intensely at her sheet, realizing she needs one more digit for her answer.
Kim Jun-soo walks away with his backpack, leaving the classroom after finishing his exam.
Soyeon watches him go, her expression unreadable as she contemplates her own performance.
A hand continues to fill in the answer sheet with a steady, focused motion.
Soyeon looks out toward the window, her mind still preoccupied with the test results.
A rhythmic soft thump sounds as students walk together on the paved sidewalk after school.
A soft, quick squeeze sounds as Soyeon's friend hugs her, happy to walk home together. A group of 4 students encounters Kim Jun-soo while walking down the street. A quick, soft flick sounds as the girl makes a gesture, feeling confident about her guesses. Soyeon remains quiet, appearing deeply troubled by her likely performance on the math section.
She forces a cheerful tone, claiming the test was easy while secretly worrying about grade cuts.
She reflects privately on her mental collapse, feeling completely ruined after the difficult exam.
Kim Jun-soo notices her obvious distress, thinking her true feelings are written all over her face.
He remains silent for a moment, observing her with a neutral but attentive gaze.
Soyeon mentions that the Korean section was particularly challenging this time around. Her friends react with shock, asking her to specify which parts were so difficult.
Kim Jun-soo notes that the killer questions were more complex and featured unfamiliar expressions.
So-yeon agrees with him, adding that the exam seemed to favor liberal arts students.
They share a brief, serious look as they discuss the nuances of the exam questions.
Soyeon looks away, her thoughts trailing off into a moment of quiet introspection.
Later at home, she sits on her bed in her pajamas, looking pensive and quiet.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as she huddles under her blanket, lost in thought. A tight, soft squeeze sounds while she clutches her phone, staring at her messages with Junseo. She stares blankly, appearing deeply drained while reflecting on the day's events. A soft, quick grin sounds as she suddenly breaks into a bright, wide smile.
Kim Jun-soo calmly reaffirms that studying is actually a hobby for him.
The 2 students stand facing each other on the street as evening begins to settle in. Soyeon smiles at him warmly, appearing more relaxed after their brief conversation. Kim Jun-soo offers a faint, gentle smile, noting that secrets are only solved in books. Soyeon asks him if it wasn't already obvious that they would be going.
She gestures for the group to move, noting that they are standing in the middle of the road.
The sign for a study cafe glows softly against the building's facade.
At the study cafe, Kim Jun-soo suggests checking their answers while he waits for more subjects.
Soyeon worries she won't be able to focus on studying without knowing her scores. A soft, quick scritch sounds as she begins to check her answers against the key. A rhythmic, soft scritch sounds while she realizes she got a perfect score in Korean. A soft, quick scritch sounds as she concludes that the Korean section wasn't so hard after all.
She prepares to check her math answers next, her expression becoming more serious.
She reads the intense online reactions to the math questions, acknowledging she couldn't solve the last one. Soyeon stares blankly at her phone, appearing lost in her own quiet thoughts. Soyeon sits at her desk, checking her phone while she waits. Soyeon sits quietly, looking ahead with a calm and steady gaze.
A rhythmic scritch sounds as Kim Jun-soo looks forward with focus.
Soyeon remains silent, her expression pensive as she looks ahead.
Kim Jun-soo continues to look forward with a completely neutral expression.
Soyeon looks up from her seat, her curiosity clearly piqued.
A soft, quick squeeze sounds as Soyeon blushes and looks down.
The 2 students sit at the table, surrounded by quiet activity.
The teacher announces that the June mock exam report cards are out. Soyeon looks shocked as the teacher mentions celebrating someone's success. The teacher excitedly reveals that someone in the class scored perfectly.
Soyeon's official report card confirms her perfect scores across every subject.
Classmates react with absolute shock, marveling at her perfect performance.
A tight squeeze sounds as she pinches her cheek, wondering if it's real.
She reflects on getting a perfect score without any OMR errors.
She stares at her paper, thinking about the final math question.
Students discuss how difficult the exam was for everyone in school.
A loud rumble sounds as friends crowd her, asking for help. So-young looks at her friends with a confused and surprised expression.
The classroom sign stands quietly as the school day continues. A low murmur sounds while students discuss grades and Kim Jun-soo watches.
A soft, quick scritch sounds as Kim Jun-soo writes in his workbook. A rhythmic scritch sounds while Junsoo examines his own high scores.
Kim Jun-soo leans his head on his hand, appearing deep in thought.
Kim Jun-soo asks about a mistake while Soyeon confirms her scores. Her friend asks about her grade rank while they sit together.
Soyeon wonders if the Korean section was truly that challenging. A soft, rhythmic crunch sounds as she reflects on the mouth curves.
A soft, quick top sounds as Kim Jun-soo checks his phone.
A soft, rhythmic crunch sounds while Soyeon reflects on her long-awaited success.
A soft, quick flare sounds as she feels proud to have won. A soft, quiet ha-ha sounds while her friends discuss her parents. Soyeon excitedly mentions that she already sent her parents a photo.
The family chat reveals her parents' overwhelming pride and her father's tears. A soft, quick giggle sounds as she agrees that her studying marked.
Kim Jin-soo privately thinks she is smiling like an idiot despite her success. So-yeon angrily rejects being called an idiot while he remains neutral. Kim Jin-soo notes that her sudden anger only proves his point further.
Her friend looks at her with a pensive and thoughtful expression.
The friend reflects that even the top student can be humanly flawed. She looks away, lost in a moment of quiet, personal introspection.
The chalkboard displays the correct answer to the final math problem. A loud cheer sounds as the students praise her impressive math performance.
A soft, quiet ha-ha sounds as So-yeon modestly brushes off praise.
She holds her pen, admitting she couldn't solve it during the cast.
A soft, quiet ha-ha sounds as she offers her notes for reference.
A soft, quick thump sounds while she hears about the national rankings.
A low murmur sounds while So-yeon vows to manage her time better.
She learns she is on duty and must submit class forms. She agrees to take the English homework along with the other paperwork. A soft, rhythmic thump sounds as someone walks down the hall.
While walking through the school, So-yeon reflects on the difficult exam results.
She tells herself she must study harder instead of making excuses.
So-yeon approaches the restricted teacher's prep area with a determined gaze.
She stops to look at her papers, appearing deeply lost in thought.
So-yeon begins to bring up the recent June mock exam results. Overhearing a conversation, she hears teachers discussing her own perfect score.
The teachers praise her hard work while worrying about her future performance.
Eavesdropping further, she realizes they are gossiping about another top student. Her expression shifts when she hears Jun-soo's name mentioned with surprise.
A soft, rhythmic splash sounds while a teacher fills his cup.
A soft, quick splash sounds as So-yeon hears about Jun-soo's terror.
The teachers marvel that Jun-soo only missed the easiest first question.
So-yeon's eyes widen as she clutches her papers to her chest. She stands frozen in the hallway, processing the shocking information. She contemplates how someone could miss such an incredibly easy problem.
She realizes Jun-soo actually solved every difficult question perfectly despite his score. She recalls Jun-soo claiming the difficult questions were particularly tricky.
So-yeon wonders if Jun-soo intentionally downplayed his performance to her. She feels betrayed by his earlier claim that the test was hard. Her mind drifts back to their quiet conversation by his father's car.
She remembers his gentle smile and the way he spoke about secrets.
A tight, soft squeeze sounds while So-yeon's anger begins to boil over.
A soft, quick slide sounds as Jun-soo focuses on his workbook.
He looks up to find So-yeon standing at the classroom door.
She commands Jun-soo to step out into the hallway immediately.
Jun-soo looks surprised by her sudden appearance and intense tone. So-yeon repeats her demand, insisting they have something to discuss.
A soft, long yawn sounds while a student hears about a fight.
The student asks who is fighting and hears the top students mentioned.
She looks shocked, unable to believe the top students are in conflict.
Walking down the hall, she senses something is very wrong with Jun-soo.
She searches for So-yeon but only sees Jun-soo standing alone. Kim Jin-soo's glasses lie broken on the floor after a sudden impact.
The brown-haired girl watches in silence, appearing completely stunned by the scene.
Kim Jin-soo stands with a red mark on his cheek, looking down.
Sunlight streams through the school windows as the confrontation continues.
Jun-soo asks why she came to find him without any warning.
A tight squeeze sounds as So-yeon trembles with suppressed anger and frustration.
She brings up the Korean exam, her voice low and filled with emotion. The two stand facing each other in the quiet, brightly lit hallway.
Jun-soo remains silent, his expression unreadable as he looks at her.
He claims he simply made a mistake because he was feeling nervous. So-yeon questions the logic of missing only the very first question.
Jun-soo notes that he is a living example of such a person.
She accuses him of lying when he said the test was difficult. Jun-soo asserts his right to find any exam challenging, regardless of scores.
A tight, soft squeeze sounds as So-yeon confronts him about his deception.
She tells him his reaction only confirms her suspicions about his true nature.
They stand in a heavy silence, the distance between them feeling immense.
So-yeon asks him if he ever gets tired of being first. She questions if he feels satisfied by letting her win occasionally.
Kim Jin-soo claims he doesn't understand the point she's making.
A tight squeeze sounds as So-yeon's frustration begins to surface.
He claims he only got the math question right by guessing.
She points out he's solved a problem he hadn't even read.
A tight squeeze sounds as she admits she couldn't beat him fairly.
Kim Jin-soo asks why he would ever fail on purpose. So-yeon admits she didn't want to believe he was lying either. She reflects on how her victory wasn't actually due to skill.
A soft, rhythmic drip sounds as she mentions his desire for praise.
She asks him if he just found the deception entertaining.
A soft, rhythmic drip sounds while she accuses him of mockery.
She suggests that watching her celebrate a false win was fun.
Kim Jin-soo looks surprised and tries to stop her from leaving.
A soft, quick thump sounds as he tells her not to cry.
The two students stand in the brightly lit school hallway.
She asks how he could ever truly understand how she feels. She notes that he only treats studying as a casual hobby.
Kim Jin-soo remains silent, his expression hidden from the viewer.
A young boy watches from the shadows of a doorway.
A large suitcase stands alone in a quiet, dimly lit room.
The boy clutches his head in a moment of distress.
The figure walks through the doorway into the bright light.
Kim Jin-soo remains silent as the heavy atmosphere continues.
A tight squeeze sounds while he clenches his fist in silence.
He looks at her, appearing ready to say something difficult.
Soyeon stares at him, her eyes filled with tears and shock.
He says a girl who only received love couldn't understand him. The two students stand facing each other in the quiet hallway.
Kim Jin-soo looks at her with a calm, neutral gaze.
He begins to offer a clarification for his earlier words. A low murmur sounds while he tries to explain himself further.
A loud thump sounds as she suddenly slaps him across the face.
A soft, quick squeeze sounds as she clenches her head.
A soft, quiet clink sounds while his glasses hit the floor. Kim Jin-soo stands with a red mark on the streak.
Soyeon trembles as she looks at him with deep emotion.
A tight squeeze sounds while she reflects on his hidden pox.
Soyeon turns and walks away, leaving Jin-soo standing alone.
She walks down the hallway, her long hair swaying slightly.
Kim Jin-soo looks down at the ground with a stunned expression.
A student asks if he is okay while his glasses break.
He remains silent, appearing lost in his own complicated thoughts.
The red mark on his face stands out against his skin.
So-yeon continues to cry as she moves through the school.
Kim Jin-soo stands tall, looking forward with a serious expression.
He looks away, appearing to process the intense confrontation.
The teacher begins to explain a question from the mock exam.
The lesson continues with a discussion about the act of reading.
Kim Jin-soo listens to a lecture while working in a warehouse.
He carries a box, calculating the remaining tasks for the shift. The audio lecture explains the nuance of creative and performative reading. He focuses on his work while the explanation of errors continues.
A soft, rhythmic drip sounds as sweat trickles down his face.
He suddenly recalls So-yeon laughing brightly during a school break.
The lecture continues, detailing why certain exam answers are incorrect.
A soft, quick tap sounds as a coworker approaches him playfully. The man offers a friendly smile, praising his constant hard work.
Kim Jin-soo looks back, still wearing his wireless earbuds. A soft, quick click sounds as he adjusts his wireless earbud.
A soft, rhythmic slide sounds while he wipes sweat with a towel. He stands in profile, appearing pensive amidst the busy warehouse.
The scene shifts to the break room where a fan spins.
A soft, quick scratch sounds as he studies during his break.
His coworkers watch him, noting his extreme dedication to studying.
He clarifies that his earbuds allow him to hear them easily. They ask if he's listening to music while he works. He explains how he learns by listening to recorded lecture content. The coworkers express concern about his busy student and work life.
They praise his recent achievement of ranking first in the country.
Kim Jin-soo dismisses the accomplishment as a lucky fluke of timing.
A soft, quiet ha-ha sounds while they discuss parenting.
A coworker boasts about his daughter's full scholarship at university.
Another worker announces that break time has officially come to an end.
Kim Jin-soo considers how a scholarship could ease his debt burden.
A soft, rhythmic thump sounds as the workers return to tasks. A coworker leans in, asking if he has found a girlfriend.
They tease him about his lack of free time for dating.
Kim Jin-soo looks away, offering a vague and non-committal response.
He describes his relationship with Soyeon as being similar to friends.
He falls silent, staring at the warehouse fan as it turns. The apartment building stands quiet under a darkening evening sky.
A soft, quick click sounds as he unlocks his front door.
He stands in the entryway of his dimly lit, empty ong. The silence of the living room greets him after his shift. A soft, rhythmic slide sounds while he dries his damp hair.
He looks toward his bedroom with a tired and neutral gaze.
A soft, quick slide sounds as he moves to his desk.
His workspace is crowded with various workbooks and a tablet.
A single, brightly lit paper sits alone on the clean desk.
A memory of his mother announcing her departure fills his mind.
He recalls his father questioning why she is taking his brother.
His mother cradles a baby, claiming it needs her more urgently. The young Kim Jin-soo asks what will happen to him then.
His mother tells him he is already old enough to be independent.
A man clutches his face, appearing overwhelmed by bitter memories.
He looks at the young boy with a desperate, sweating face.
The young boy watches silently from the doorway as they argue.
The empty room remains still, the heavy past lingering in silence.
Elementary school workbooks sit on a shelf beside a pen case.
A young, brown-haired boy sits at his desk looking ahead quietly.
Looking at a paper, Kim Jin-soo agrees as the story transitions back into his past.
He reflects on his growth while reading a worksheet about future goals.
The Sunnam Elementary School building stands tall under a clear sky.
A large stack of elementary math workbooks sits on the desk. Kim Jin-soo stretches, complaining that his mother will check his work and considering cheating.
His classmate suggests a deal where he solves the problems and returns the workbooks.
He finds the offer of having his workbook solved for him incredibly beneficial.
He expresses his gratitude while a small plant sits on the shelf.
A new shelf is filled with middle school English and math workbooks. A pensive Kim Jin-soo stares off, appearing deeply lost in his thoughts.
He wonders why he cannot achieve a perfect score on his exams.
He admits to feeling annoyed while his gaze remains fixed and steady.
His female classmates discuss their piercings, with one explaining she wants a professional result.
She shows off her ear piercings, noting how the process helps her relieve stress.
He listens as they discuss where to get cheap piercings and cardigans downtown.
A soft rhythmic trip sounds as he pierces his own ear in the bathroom mirror.
Blood runs down his ear as the narrative prepares for another shift.
Kim Jun-soo stares at his reflection after successfully piercing his own ear.
At the Yulji Middle School gate, someone asks if he considers a specialized high school.
The teacher notes his grade improvement and suggests he choose a science-focused high school.
He rejects the idea because of the high tuition, preferring public schools near his home.
The teacher falls silent, suggesting that he should have much more ambition for himself.
He simply declines her suggestion while they sit across from each other in the office.
Kim Jun-soo offers a polite, calm smile as he finishes the meeting. He stands in a high school uniform looking ahead with a serious expression. A student gives a speech during the school's formal entrance ceremony.
In the crowd, he receives a mobile notification regarding a part-time job interview response.
A soft, quick tap sounds as he checks his phone during the ceremony. Im Chae-yeon is teased about a freshman before her friend suggests leaving to avoid the coach. A soft, low whisper sounds as a teacher warns him to put his phone away.
The short-haired girl looks down at him and notes she sees a decent guy.
A formal announcement concludes the 28th entrance ceremony for Namyan High School.
The modern school building stands quiet as the ceremony comes to an end. He calculates his schedule, hoping he can arrive on time if he catches the bus.
A soft, quick wish sounds as someone suddenly calls out to him.
He stops and finds a girl standing directly before him in the courtyard. Kim Jin-soo asks for her identity, and she introduces herself as Senior Im Chae-yeon. She asks which middle school he attended, and he confirms he went to Yulji. She laughs, noting she knows many students there and must have seen him before.
She asks for his phone number, expressing a desire for them to become close.
He appears confused by her sudden request, but agrees to provide his contact information.
Laughing, she says goodbye and tells him she will see him again soon.
Her friend teases her about getting a freshman's number as they walk away together.
Kim Jin-soo watches her leave, appearing confused by the unexpected social encounter. He decides to head upstairs and organize his new textbooks for the semester.
A loud, quick thump sounds as he studies during a crowded bus rack.
He looks surprised as he responds politely to the girl sitting beside him.
He questions her statement while a note mentions he has never dated before.
The short-haired girl sitting beside him on the bus offers a curious, knowing look.
Kim Jin-soo checks his phone, seeing a friendly message from Im Chae-yeon asking to hand out.
He looks at the screen with a neutral expression while preparing to resume his studies.
A notification from the convenience store manager appears, asking if he can cover a shift this weekend.
He stares at the phone in silence, processing the conflicting demands of work and social life.
Sitting in the back of the classroom, he remains focused on his mobile device during a quiet moment.
He sets the phone aside and continues writing in his workbook, prioritizing his academic tasks.
Kim Jin-soo stands near the classroom window, his backpack on as he prepares to move.
He listens as a student nearby whispers rumors about his recent social interactions. The student claims he ghosted a senior after she confessed her feelings to him.
Another student questions his reasoning, finding it hard to believe his busy schedule is the real cause.
They mock his excuse of working part-time, skeptical that he could maintain top grades while doing so.
They dismiss his explanation as a lie while he stands just out of sight near the doorway. Kim Jun-soo walks away with a steady, unbothered pace, his heavy backpack settled on his shoulders. He returns to his desk and resumes his intense study session, ignoring the surrounding chatter.
His profile remains focused and determined as he works through various textbook problems.
He notes how his personal life has become common gossip among his classmates.
Two girls in the back of the classroom whisper and point toward him.
They call him thick-skinned, judging his behavior based on the rumors they've heard.
Kim Jun-soo looks down at his desk, appearing tired but determined to stay on his chosen path.
He reflects on the necessity of earning money to secure his own future independence.
A soft, quick snap sounds as the lead of his mechanical pencil breaks against the paper. He focuses on the goal of getting into a university and leaving his difficult home life behind. He records his desire to stop being a burden to his father in his notebook.
He looks out the classroom window at the winter sky, momentarily lost in his own thoughts. He realizes something, his gaze sharpening as a new realization takes hold.
A close-up reveals his eyes behind his glasses, reflecting a moment of sudden clarity. He appears pensive, weighing the heavy responsibilities he carries against the student life around him.
His phone vibrates against his lap, pulling his attention back to the digital world.
He checks a new message from Senior Im Chae-yeon, who demands an explanation for his behavior.
She questions why he is acting this way after they had seemingly established a close connection.
Kim Jun-soo looks at the demanding messages with a weary and disconnected expression.
A memory of his past struggles flashes through his mind, tinged with a sense of regret.
He holds the phone tightly, his fingers hovering over the screen as he considers a response.
Standing outside in his winter coat, he looks at the facade of a closed-down clothing store.
He stands before the empty shop, looking small against the quiet city street.
He laments the store's closure, noting he enjoyed the quiet atmosphere and the clothing selection there.
He looks through the glass at the for lease sign, realizing his favorite local spot is gone.
Standing with his backpack on, he considers the passage of time and the changes in his neighborhood.
He decides to look for a new part-time job to avoid returning to his studies immediately.
He stares at the vacancy sign, pondering his next move in the cold winter air.
A black-haired girl in a school uniform walks past him, her attention fixed on the empty storefront.
She mentions her plan to open a cafe in the vacant space and asks for his opinion on the spot.
Kim Jin-soo looks at her with total surprise, caught off guard by her sudden and bold statement. He honestly critiques the location, calling it the worst possible choice for a new business.
He explains that the spot feels cursed, having seen multiple stores fail in that exact location already.
The girl becomes even more excited, declaring that her goal is to break that record of failure. She smiles brightly, appearing thrilled by the challenge of succeeding where others have failed.
They stand facing each other in front of the empty shop as the first snowflakes begin to fall.
Kim Jin-soo offers a polite but confused agreement, still unsure how to react to her intense optimism.
So Hae-rin holds a lollipop and asks Kim Jin-soo to work at her cafe.
Kim Jin-soo appears surprised by the sudden job offer in the snowy street.
She claims she submitted a business plan, and he agrees to decide after seeing it.
He reflects on his intense studying before transitioning to a scene.
Kim Jin-soo stands behind the counter of the cafe, ready for work.
A student asks if Kim Jin-soo is present during an outdoor activity. Kim Jin-soo focuses on his notes while wearing sports gear and a headband.
A girl in a squirrel onesie looks on with a disgruntled expression.
She watches him from afar while he sits with his classmates in the courtyard. A soft, quick hiss sounds as Kim Jin-soo sprays and cleans a table in the cafe. He stops his work and looks up, sensing someone approaching. A close-up shows his eyes as someone greets him by name.
Im Chae-yeon stands at the entrance, appearing calm and expected.
She mocks him for having fun while he clarifies he is simply working.
She mentions the rumors about his ghosting behavior and mocks his reputation.
She questions if the owner knows his true character while he looks down. Kim Jin-soo asks her to take the conversation outside as Seo Hae-rin arrives. So Hae-rin enters and expresses surprise at seeing Chaeyeon in her shop.
She enthusiastically greets her, revealing she is the owner of the establishment.
Chaeyeon states she has business with the part-timer, prompting Hae-rin's confusion.
Hae-rin points at Jin-soo, questioning what is going on the Taenim.
Hae-rin realizes the situation is a romantic dispute based on what she overheard.
In the kitchen, she washes dishes and asks if he has a girlfriend.
He admits he never had time to date and likely never will.
Hae-rin observes him, realizing his answer was completely honest.
Kim Jin-soo continues his tasks with a focused and serious expression.
Hae-rin looks at him with a neutral but thoughtful gaze.
A soft, sudden grab sounds as Hae-rin holds his hand in front of Chaeyeon.
Chaeyeon is visibly stunned and asks since when they have been close.
A dull, quick thump sounds as Hae-rin hits him to keep him sawe.
Hae-rin claims they have been dating for a week and mocks Chaeyeon's bullying rumors. She asks if the target of Chaeyeon's attention was her boyfriend, while the senior looks flustered.
Hae-rin stands her ground, staring directly at the brown-haired girl. She calls Chaeyeon delusional for misinterpreting her kindness as romantic interest.
She notes that Chaeyeon even brought friends to watch her confrontation through the window. She mocks Chaeyeon's performance in the track club and her attempt to discipline juniors.
Kim Jin-soo watches the exchange with a bewildered and silent expression.
A blurry text panel reflects his confusion during the intense argument.
Hae-rin notes that graduation is next week and tells Chaeyeon to behave. The scene shifts to the bright exterior of the cafe building. Sitting at a table, Kim Jin-soo explains that his past interaction with the senior was minor.
Hae-rin looks at him with skepticism, questioning if that was truly the end of it.
A chibi-style flashback confirms he rejected the senior's confession and thanked her. Hae-rin rests her hand on her chin, reflecting on the senior's difficult school life.
She appears pensive, lost in thought while staring off to the side.
Kim Jin-soo begins to speak, his gaze fixed steadily on her.
He makes a surprising proposal, asking if they should try dating for real.
He explains that neither of them would lose anything by forming this arrangement.
Hae-rin adds that it would help fend off persistent people and unwanted romantic attention.
He agrees with her logic, concluding that the proposal is actually quite reasonable.
So Hae-rin leans on her hand with a gentle smile.
A girl in a squirrel onesie blushes and looks down. Kim Jin-soo wonders why the small girl isn't moving away.
Classmates whisper rumors about Kim Jin-soo's intimidating girlfriend nearby.
The squirrel-costumed girl turns away with a lingering blush.
He gazes at her, a realization finally dawning on him.
Their hands remain tightly clasped in the middle of the field. Kim Jin-soo offers a quiet apology to the costumed girl.
A sudden loud shout sounds as the girl runs away, telling him to greet his girlfriend for her while a teacher tells her to stay in the center of the track.
He stands stunned, processing her energetic and confusing departure.
A close-up highlights the super logo on his sports jersey.
He turns back toward his teammates after the confusing encounter.
A student asks if that was Yang So-yeon from Class 5. They discuss her top grades and cuteness while he thinks. A close-up focuses on a name tag reading Yang So-yeon.
Kim Jin-soo stops in the hallway as he spots her.
Yang So-yeon greets him with a bright, cheerful expression.
Her expression shifts to one of surprise and slight awkwardness.
He offers a polite wave as he acknowledges her presence.
A sharp, quick turn sounds as she suddenly looks away. She walks past him quickly, ignoring his attempted greeting.
He stands alone in the hallway, looking completely bewildered.
A soft, quick chime sounds as she ignores him again.
He reflects that they aren't close enough for regular greetings.
He recalls her apologizing for holding hands with a taken man.
His expression is blank as he remembers the awkward misunderstanding. He sits at his desk, lost in quiet, lonely contemplation.
His profile shows a focused, serious look during a transition.
In the cafe, he suggests that they should break up.
So Hae-rin stops cooking, stunned by his sudden, cold proposal.
She asks why he's bringing that up while they're developing a new menu item, but he simply suggests adding more sugar to the sauce. She questions if he has found a girl he likes, though he quickly denies it while telling her to stop adding sugar. Standing in the kitchen, they agree the current batch is ruined and decide to start the dish again from scratch.
He pauses before adding another detail to his unexpected news.
He explains that he got a new job moving logistics for a snack company because the pay is better and the work is more mindless. The scene shifts to the bright exterior of the cafe. Sunlight hits the school building, marking a new school day.
Yang So-yeon walks through the school hallway with a file. Leaning out a window, he notes he is officially single.
He decides that she probably just has no interest in him.
A menacing aura radiates from her as she watches him. The scene shifts to a street lined with various shops.
She insists that they are close friends despite his claim that she must have mistaken him for someone else.
They walk together while she chats happily about their destination.
A steady, heavy thud sounds as they walk side by side. She asks which cafe they are headed to, catching him off guard. She claims she is terrible at math and asks him to teach her, laughing happily as they walk.
He mentions the rumors about her nearly perfect math score, but she ignores them, and he eventually agrees to help her. A steady, heavy thud sounds as he approaches her desk, thinking it would be best to teach her properly from the very beginning.
He prepares to teach her, hands resting on the workbook.
A soft flushing sound accompanies Yang So-yeon as she blushes and asks if the answer is 4.
Kim Jin-soo questions what she was listening to during the explanation and how she could have arrived at such a wrong answer.
A soft, hesitant mumble sounding follows as So-yeon looks down and admits she is not sure about the material. Kim Jin-soo looks back at her with a calm but observant expression.
He notes with a hint of surprise that she has suddenly started using formal speech with him. He reflects on the memory of that day's study session, recalling that it was actually quite enjoyable.
He considers how his daily routine has been changing ever since that particular day. Yang So-yeon looks up at him with a deep blush and wide, earnest eyes.
She reflects on how he has spent several months shaking up her typical daily life and routines.
A notebook filled with math problems and sticky notes rests on the desk as he continues his work.
Drying his hair with the towel, Kim Jin-soo notes that he had intended to finish Unit 7 of his chemistry work today.
A quick scratching sounding follows as he writes, while So-yeon reacts with total shock to his intense study goals. Studying late into the night, he decides to work until 5 in the morning before catching some sleep at school. He pauses his work, holding his mechanical pencil with a serious and determined look. He remains silent, lost in thought while focusing on his demanding academic schedule. Looking down with a deep blush and heart-shaped patterns on her cheeks, So-yeon appears completely flustered. She reflects on the months they have spent together and how much his presence has affected her.
A soft flushing sound accompanies her as she thinks about how he has disrupted her usual day.
A quick rhythmic scribble sounding follows while Kim Jin-soo focuses intensely on his workbook. She looks toward him with a gentle, happy smile and a warm expression. A blackboard displays the countdown for the upcoming June mock exam along with various student scribbles. Looking tired, he wonders to himself how long it has been since he was able to sleep properly. He realizes they have been spending much more time together lately as they study side by side. A soft, quick tap sounding follows as he checks his June calendar, noting that finals and summer break are approaching.
He hopes that once the break arrives, he will finally be able to get some much-needed sleep.
A soft, quick swipe sounding follows as he checks July, realizing his job will prevent him from seeing So-yeon for a while. A quick rhythmic scribble sounding follows as he continues to solve problems in his notebook.
Yang So-yeon smiles brightly as she imagines the time they will spend apart.
He looks down with a weary expression, contemplating the coming weeks when she will not be around. A soft, quick drip sounding follows as a nosebleed suddenly begins to run down his face.
A soft, quick drip sounding continues as a classmate asks if he is okay and points out his nosebleed.
His classmate suggests that he should head to the nurse's office to take care of himself.
The school nurse advises him to prioritize his health over grades, noting he is the second student she has seen today. A soft, quick wipe sounding follows as Kim Jin-soo sits on the nurse's office couch and cleans his face. From behind the curtain, So-yeon mentions the nurse's diagnosis of sleep deprivation, while a voice on her phone tells her not to worry. The two students sit in the quiet nurse's office, separated only by a thin white curtain. Looking at her phone with a frustrated expression, she calls someone a delinquent under her breath. Kim Jin-soo asks why she's in the nurse's office, and she quietly replies that she hasn't been feeling very well. She reflects on the scene, thinking that she should have recognized the signs of his struggle much earlier. Kim Jin-soo stands up and begins to walk toward her side of the room. A dull, quick thump sounding follows as he sits down, noting that the June mock exam is coming up very soon.
From behind the curtain, she admits that things do not seem to be going the way she planned.
A soft, firm squeeze sounding follows as she explains the pressure of the important exam and her parents' high expectations.
A soft, hesitant mumble sounding follows as she confesses that, above all else, she lacks trust in herself.
Kim Jin-soo lets out a soft, awkward laugh as he listens to her honest confession.
He apologizes for sharing too much and asks her to forget what he said, wondering if it was too much information.
Young So-yeon remains sitting on the hospital bed, hidden behind the curtain in the bright room. She wonders if his face would be filled with worry or an expression she has never seen before. She smiles brightly, appearing relieved and happy despite the academic pressure she feels.
Kim Jin-soo stands with his back to the camera, looking toward the nurse's station as the conversation ends.
Kim Jin-soo gazes off with a soft, thoughtful sigh as he says, "Ah."
Yang So-yeon stands with a deep blush and tears in her eyes. He looks down with a slight blush after their awkward interaction.
A digital sign displays the current bus route arrival times.
A sharp, loud screeching sounding follows as Kim Jin-soo stands on the bus.
His hand scans a smartphone near the bus payment terminal.
He stands alone at the back of the city bus.
Someone calls out to him, addressing him as Mr. from Mind.
A passenger asks if the bus goes to Jugangdong, but Kim Jin-soo clarifies it does not before wondering why they asked him.
Two students stand side by side on the quiet bus. He reflects on his bizarre excuse of being hit by a cat. The scene transitions to the school building specifically 4 hours earlier. Students wonder where Yang So-yeon went as PE class begins, then spawn her. A steady, heavy thud sounding follows as she runs toward them very quickly.
A heavy, rhythmic thud sounding continues as she rushes past them while swearing.
Yang So-yeon cries and wonders why she hit him since she didn't intend to. She tells her friends she didn't mean it, while a friend asks who she killed. Someone in the gym questions if Kim Jin-soo got a question wrong on purpose. A soft, wet sniffle sounding follows as she sits while a friend calls him crazy.
Her friend asks if there is actual proof he failed on purpose.
So-yeon asks if they can believe he missed the very first Korean question.
She explains she even heard the teachers discussing the odd mistake.
Her friends wonder why he would purposely lower his own score like that.
A soft, quick grip sounding follows as she looks down with a hesitant look. Her friends admit they are clueless, while she says she really doesn't know either. A soft, quick stomp sounding follows as she shouts that his behavior is annoying. She wonders if he is conducting an experiment to see her reaction to perfect scores. A loud, long scream sounding follows as she notes he even came to her house.
Her friends stare at her with expressions of absolute shock.
A soft, quick gasp sounding follows as she clarifies it was a brief, normal visit.
She wonders if he is acting this way because he wants to be praised.
Her friend asks her for more details about why he went to her home. She imagines him experimenting on hamsters, wondering if she is his next subject.
She worries that he is planning to include her parents in his specimen list.
A soft, quick mutter sounding follows as a friend says the situation is scary.
The short-haired girl suddenly has a realization and gasps, "Ah!"
Her friends lean in and ask if she finally figured it out.
She reveals that she and Kim Jin-soo actually attended the same elementary school. The three students sit on the floor in deep thought.
One friend asks who cares about her story while aggressively grabbing her shirt.
She recalls they were in the same third-grade class together years ago. She remembers he had black hair and wasn't very good at studying then.
A chalkboard displays the title for a special parent observation class session.
She notes that unlike everyone else, neither of his parents came to class.
The young boy remains focused on his desk during class.
A black leather shoe steps through the open classroom door.
She explains that his father eventually arrived, although he was very late.
A handsome man apologizes for being late as mothers in the back swoon.
The young student looks up with a look of surprise.
A soft, quick wave sounding follows as the man greets his young son.
The short-haired girl observes him and reflects on the feeling she had that day. She tells her friend she thought he was desperate to receive praise.
She suggests that he might be feeling similar emotions regarding Yang So-yeon. A friend notes his parents divorced early and he lives with his father.
The short-haired girl wonders if he sees his own reflection in So-young.
Her friend suggests she is writing a novel, but she calls it scientific reasoning. So-yeon remains silent, wondering if Jin-soo truly possesses such a side.
Kim Jin-soo wears glasses and looks forward with a neutral expression.
So-yeon looks down, lost in thought during the intense conversation.
She remains curled up on the floor in her gym clothes.
Sitting on a bus, Kim Jin-soo gazes out the window with a weary look.
He offers a gentle smile while bathed in warm, soft light.
The two students stand together in an open, white space.
A soft, quick grip sounding follows as she wonders how she appeared to him. Her friend laughs, noting there are things even a top scorer does not know.
On a quiet bus, Kim Jin-soo and the short-haired girl stand together. She looks away dismissively, telling him to mind his own business.
He stands silently with his back to her in the nearly empty bus.
She turns to him and asks if he failed the question on purpose.
Kim Jin-soo looks away with a slight blush on his cheek.
She calls him a track and field delinquent with a frustrated expression.
She uses a racing analogy, imagining herself falling right before the finish line.
She imagines telling the winner she fell just so they could win. He asks if that is a game, leaving her looking puzzled.
She yells that it is insulting and asks why he would do that.
He looks away, admitting that is exactly why he didn't say anything.
A steady, heavy thud sounding follows as she asks why he picked that question.
He looks at her and admits he didn't know which part to miss.
He asks her what posture she would calculate to fall in while losing. He notes that one probably wouldn't think deeply about the method of failing. She looks at him skeptically, saying his logic is not entirely correct. He looks back at her with a calm and serious gaze.
A soft, quick beep sounding follows as she presses the bus stop button.
She advises him to clear up any misunderstandings as quickly as possible.
She tells him that he knows best how stressful misunderstandings can be.
She tells him to reconcile properly with Yang So-yeon next time.
She smiles warmly and admits she enjoys seeing So-yeon smile.
A heavy, slow step sounding follows as she exits the city bus.
A soft, low creak sounding follows as he thinks he also wanted to see her smile.
He looks forward with a neutral expression while standing in the school.
Yang So-yeon looks toward him with a gentle and happy expression.
She offers a bright, radiant smile while looking directly at him.
He stands silently, gazing at her with a look of realization.
He looks away toward the classroom window with his back turned.
The two students stand together in a simple, bright environment. He reflects that they were likely both wrong answers for each other. The school building stands tall under a clear, bright afternoon sky. A soft, quick slide sounding follows as he rests his head on a workbook. He peers over his 2019 Korean literature workbook with tired eyes. Sitting alone in the classroom, Kim Jun-soo notes the room is incorrect.
A pair of brown loafers steps softly across the classroom floor.
Standing in the doorway, Yang So-yeon replies that she is already aware.
She gazes at him with a serious and unwavering expression. The two students face each other in the quiet, empty classroom. A modern house stands silently under the glow of evening lights. At home, she regrets hitting him as her hand continues aching. She looks away, deeply immersed in her own troubled thoughts. She reflects on the real reason he visited her family home. She wonders how her family appeared to his lonely perspective. Sunlight filters across the student's white shirt and black undershirt. Back in the present, she looks determined to find the truth. She reflects on her own potential arrogance while staring into the distance.
Her smartphone rests on the desk, displaying several new unread messages.
A group chat reveals he arrives at school exceptionally early every day.
She wonders why her classmates are awake at such an hour.
The digital clock on her phone screen displays early morning time. She sits at her desk holding her phone with a bruised hand. She stands up from her desk chair with a very sudden movement. She decides to act since thinking alone will solve nothing. A bus stop shows a route arriving at the stop scene. The school building glows softly under the pale morning sky. She tells him she came specifically to see him that morning. Blushing, he asks why she would come at such an hour. She counters that he is the strange one for being there. She walks purposefully toward him through the rows of empty desks. He watches her approach from his seat at the back.
She stops in front of him, looking down with a frown.
He apologizes while keeping his back turned toward her in silence. He hesitates to continue his sentence, looking down with a blush. He struggles to find the words to explain his complex feelings. She sets her pink backpack down on a desk beside him.
She urges him to be honest about why he failed purposely.
She asks directly why he chose to get a question wrong. He looks up at her with a hesitant and surprised expression.
He explains he lives with his father and barely remembers his mother.
He admits he works and studies hard to avoid being a problem. He notes that she seemed to truly love her parents' presence. He wondered what kind of family could inspire such deep affection. She asks if her family appeared precious from his perspective. He confirms they did while they sit together in the classroom. He admits his goal was simply to make her smile again. Surprised, she asks if he meant he wanted her parents happy. He looks her in the eye and clarifies he meant her. A heavy silence falls as they sit alone in the room. She stares at him, completely stunned by his honest and unexpected confession. She questions why he chose a specific question to miss purposefully. She notes how hard he works despite the burdens he carries. He looks at her with a gentle, soft, and sincere gaze. She turns away, her long black hair swaying in the light. She begins to speak, noting that in reality, things were different. The two students sit quietly in the empty morning classroom. She admits she mistook his hard work for effortless talent because he never made mistakes. He reflects on the irony of previously claiming that studying while working was fun. He thinks it would have been even harder to confess the truth in public. Blushing intensely with a bandage on his nose, he apologizes for hurting her face. He remains silent, lost in his own complicated and troubled feelings. She looks down, preparing to add another thought to their serious conversation.
She suggests they talk next time things are hard, reminding him of an old promise.
They continue their serious talk amidst the sea of empty school desks. She gazes at him, her expression softening during the intense morning conversation. He apologizes for suddenly asking a question that might seem very strange.
A soft, quick blush sounding follows as he reminds her she once preferred playing over studying.
A sudden, loud thud sounding follows as she stands up with a determined expression. Blushing intensely, she looks him in the eye and asks that they reconcile.
She stands over him as he remains seated at his desk.
A soft, quick plop sounding follows as he leans his head against her.
He rests his head against her in the quiet room.
Surprised, she asks if he came to school specifically without getting any sleep.
He continues to lean against her, finding a moment of weary peace.
She asks if he frequently lacks sleep, and he admits that he does.
A soft, low sigh sounding follows as he explains he cannot sleep well at home. She reflects that finding the answer to their situation might be very difficult.
She notes that everything about the two of them is entirely different.
He realizes they might never fully grasp the depth of each other's feelings.
She concludes that assuming one knows everything about another is merely arrogance.
She offers a gentle, small smile, deciding to focus on the present moment.
She reaches out toward him with a slow and deliberate movement. Her open hand is extended toward him in a friendly gesture.
Her hand hovers near his light brown hair as he looks down.
She gently places her hand on top of his head.
A soft, quick pat sounding follows as she strokes his hair affectionately.
A steady, heavy thump sounding follows as his heart begins to race at her touch.
She notes his legs are shaking and he jokingly offers to buy her new ones.
The school building stands tall under the bright light after their reconciliation.
A sign on the wall clearly identifies the entrance to the school library.
Several colorful books lie scattered across the floor in a quiet corner.
Two students' arms are intertwined on a table covered with study materials.
He wraps his arms around her in a warm library embrace.
She holds a book while being hugged from behind, looking stunned and surprised.
The scene shifts back to 30 minutes earlier inside a convenience store.
A friend complains about missing bread while Junsu suggests she quit eating sweets.
The friend says sweets are vital for study while Soyeon offers a simple solution.
The friend with the ponytail thinks to herself how glad she is they reconciled.
She looks thoughtful, sensing that there might be much more to the story. A soft, quick day sounding follows as the black-haired boy stares blankly ahead.
A soft, quick gasp sounding follows as he looks up in sudden surprise.
Kim Jin-soo looks at the two friends and asks if something bad happened.
A soft, quick mutter sounding follows as the black-haired boy looks away nervously.
The school library sign marks the return to their quiet place of study.
Chibi Kim Jun-soo worries about library closures and book penalty points.
Yang So-yeon smiles brightly while brandishing a set of library keys. She explains how her connections with the library club secured the keys.
He thinks to himself that he should have visited the library war.
She asks why he is following her through the quiet school hallway.
A pair of brown loafers steps softly across the library floor.
She reaches up toward the tall library entrance door to unlock it.
A soft, quick shake sounding follows as she struggles with the lock.
She admits that she was never in charge of the library doors.
He reaches over her from behind to assist with the high walk. A soft, quick slide sounding follows as he easily reaches the P. He notes his presence was useful while she blushes and looks away.
She remarks on how nostalgic it feels to return to the library.
A soft, quick beep sounding follows as she operates the library computer.
A soft, quick beep sounding follows as she scans Suyan's borrow puck. She searches the database for a book in the social philosophy section. She stands alone between the tall and looming library book stacks.
She wonders why all the library books are placed so high up.
She looks back toward him from the quiet aisle of the library. He watches her search for books from across the library room.
She peeks around a wooden shelf to find her desired book.
She excitedly spots her target philosophy book on a high shelf. A shot focuses on brown loafers near a rolling library stool. A soft, quick slide sounding follows as she climbs the rolling store. She justifies the risk, preferring it over a pre-exam injury. He questions her choice of stool while she explains the latter's absence. She reveals her plan to study Kant's critique of pure reason. She notes the philosopher as a frequent topic in their ethics pass.
She chooses a commentary book to help with her difficult studies.
She asks if there is any specific book he wants to find. He prepares to ask her a question that has been bothering him.
She reaches for the red book while they continue their conversation.
She asks for clarification regarding the timing of their past cheered greeter.
He reminds her of the moment after last year's sports stand.
She looks confused while trying to recall that specific school day.
A flashback memory shows them together during the previous sports event.
She admits avoiding him because of her legendary and embarrassing dark history. She reminds him that she already mentioned her past dark history. He questions why she is still holding on to that old memory. She looks toward him with a very serious and unwavering gaze.
She notes that he probably does not even remember the event.
She turns her attention back toward the red philosophy book on hay. She reaches out toward the book while he watches her from the well.
She successfully pulls the heavy red book from its place on high.
She begins to say something before her balance suddenly shifts.
He releases the stool, not realizing she still needed his steady support.
A sudden, quick slip sounding follows as the stool moves away. She panics as she begins to fall backward from the rolling stool. A sudden, loud gasp sounding follows as he lunges to catch her. A soft, low thud sounding follows as he holds her securely.
A stack of books falls onto the library floor with a heavy, sudden thump sounding.
Yang So-yeon sits on the floor, clutching her book, her face blushing with intense embarrassment.
A sudden, loud movement follows as he catches her after her fall from the stool.
She demands he release her while he jokingly remarks on her weight as they lie together.
He continues teasing her about her weight while they remain tangled on the library floor.
He holds her securely from behind as they both stand up among the scattered books.
A confused silence passes between the two students as he maintains his close hold. She decides to stop talking and prepares to move past their awkward physical encounter.
A soft, quick sigh sounding follows as she mentions her recent and exhausting lack of sleep.
The scene shifts to the new book section as their quiet library conversation continues.
He admits he thought she was uninterested because she never acknowledged his past greetings.
She reacts with a sudden start, clearly surprised by his proximity as he continues his embrace.
She confesses her disappointment that he didn't seem to remember her from the term's start.
He looks down at her with a quiet, thoughtful expression during their intimate melee.
She stares ahead with wide eyes, completely frozen by their unexpected and intense physical closeness.
Her attention is suddenly drawn to a small, dark object moving across the floor.
A soft, quick skitter sounding follows as a large bug appears under the library shelves.
He pulls her even closer as she begins to tremble with fear at the insect.
He gently calls her name, Yang So-yeon, noticing her sudden and frantic panic.
She points toward the floor, stuttering in terror as she identifies the creature as a bug.
He confirms the bug is real and alive, watching her react with sheer horror.
He warns her that it is moving, prompting a sudden loud gasp sounding from her. She breaks out in a cold sweat, her eyes darting around in frantic alarm.
He watches her with a calm but focused gaze as she remains paralyzed by fear.
A hand makes a soft, quick scratch sounding while writing notes onto sheet music.
A soft, low hum sounding follows as a student works diligently on a composition.
A boy enters and announces that the preparatory bell for class has just rung.
The student at the desk responds with a simple and casual acknowledgement of the time.
He questions why anyone would worry so much about a couple of school performances.
A colorful poster on the wall advertises the upcoming 18th Namyeon School Festival.
The festival poster details various events and food stalls on the school field.
A boy with dark, wavy hair looks toward the doorway with a gentle smile.
Outside on the school grounds, a student loudly promotes a snack bar to the crowd.
Looking from a window, So-yeon notes the noisy and lively atmosphere of the festival.
She stares out at the crowd, her expression becoming distant and deeply reflective.
Ji-woo looks completely drained, her face showing the toll of her intense study schedule. Ji-woo complains about the lack of freedom for seniors to join the festival events.
So-yeon offers a sympathetic smile, trying to comfort her frustrated and exhausted friend.
Ji-woo laments her likely exam failure while others seem to have done much better.
So-yeon turns her gaze back toward the window, watching the festivities unfold below.
She reflects on the abundance of delicious food available at the various festival stalls.
She looks back at her friend, who appears slightly more hopeful about the situation.
Ji-woo offers a small, knowing smile as they prepare for the next part of their day.
Looking into a small mirror, she thinks to herself that no one will recognize her.
So-yeon stares at her reflection, preparing a secret plan to join the festival undetected.
A memory of a past event shows her dressed in a comical raccoon mascot costume.
Now in the present, she walks through the crowded festival grounds with her friends. A soft, quick squeeze sounding follows as two of the friends hold hands tightly together. So-yeon reflects on how much the school festival has changed since the previous year.
She looks ahead with a curious expression, remembering the performance mentioned earlier.
A hand in a dark jacket reaches out toward a faint, dashed hand.
So-yeon walks through a dense and lively festival crowd as music plays loudly.
She eats while deciding that finding her friends in this crowd is futile.
She reflects on spending past festivals studying alone instead of joining the fun events.
She wonders if she missed out on enjoying school life before her graduation.
A pair of black sneakers stands right next to So-yeon's brown loafers.
She stands beside a tall boy dressed in a formal black school uniform. The brown-haired boy with a chain earring looks calmly toward the festival stalls. She is startled to realize that someone has been standing beside her. She is shocked to see a sold-out sign, realizing she ate everything herself.
She offers to buy him something else to apologize for her sudden gluttony.
The boy looks at her and simply asks for a festival slushie instead.
A soft, quick tap sounding follows as she turns back toward the food stall. She orders 2 slushies while trying to be polite to the quiet boy. He looks at her curiously and asks if she is a third-year student. She nervously confirms her status as a senior student to the observant boy.
Chibi So-yeon looks completely frozen and panicked by his sudden and accurate question.
He shows her a senior name tag belonging to his sister, Choi Ji-woo.
He mentions his sister's complaints about seniors being barred from the festival crowns.
She awkwardly laughs while secretly resolving to hide her own name tag in her pocket. He notes seeing many different name tag colors while walking through the crowded school.
Chibi So-yeon keeps a strained, forced smile while her internal panic reaches a peak.
She desperately begs him with tears to keep her secret presence at the festival. He looks down at her with a calm and thoughtful expression during her plea.
He breaks into a gentle smile, clearly finding her frantic behavior quite amusing.
She offers to pay him money to ensure his silence regarding her rule-breaking. The boy is stunned by her offer and stares at her in silent surprise. A sudden, loud burst of laughter sounding follows as he finds her suggestion hilarious. She looks up at him with a confused and curious expression on her face. He holds out a smartphone, suggesting a digital social media connection instead. A past memory shows her friend Jiwoo helping her create a social media account.
Soyeon asks why everyone is so obsessed with sharing their personal lives online.
Jiwoo explains that social media helps people show their true personalities to others.
She adds that it is a great way to approach people and make friends.
Soyeon wonders if this boy is sincerely trying to befriend her through the app.
She recalls how her relationships with people like Jin-soo have changed over time.
She decides to be more open-minded and provides her social media contact info.
He notes that his phone is receiving a constant stream of urgent messages.
A soft, quick vibrate sounding follows as he realizes he must depart immediately.
He waves goodbye while she tries to offer him the food she ordered.
A close-up of the boy's face shows him looking slightly dazed and potful.
He blushes and looks back at her one last time before leaving his stall.
He walks away into the crowd, revealing a red student council armband.
Soyeon stands puzzled by his strange behavior and sudden departure from the area.
She thinks to herself that he is a very odd and unpredictable person.
A loudspeaker announces the start of a quiz show on the school field.
Soyeon looks toward the stage as the host introduces a handsome student participant.
A boy on the stage looks down with a very nervous and pained expression.
Chibi Soyeon looks confused, unable to hear the boy on the stage clearly.
A sudden, quick gasp sounding follows as she watches the crowd from the stall.
Jiwoo watches from a distance, wondering what Soyeon is doing so conspicuously in the crowd.
A smartphone screen displays a recent social media search for a profile belonging to Yang Soyeon.
The brown-haired boy looks at his phone and realizes her name is actually not Choi Ji-wood.
He looks up as a frustrated person off-screen demands to know where he's been all this time.